Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Groot Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to continue with part 3 of our annual 8-episode series in which we go team by team comparing notes on our projections for the 2025-26 season. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. Very good. Actually, it's going down. Great, very good. So. I don't know. Yeah. No, I'm fine. It's good. We had to take a break on the V's here. I got a little bit of a V here, folks. But YouTube did send a very strongly worded email. All right, they said the V was too deep. All right, we were getting into a territory that was like it was kind of adult. Our demo was going a different way. So we have to, pull it back a little bit. There was too much white hot magma. You know what I'm talking about, Nate?
Yeah, specifically coming from your side of the screen for sure.
Yeah,
there wasn't really anywhere left to go with the V's after that performance last time out. So we had to dial it back, bring it back to our roots here, which is actually just talking about fantasy hockey and not about the depth of our shirts. But we gotta have a side hustle sometimes too. So anyway, Blake, what are we doing tonight? We're talking about 4 more teams, and I'm pretty excited about this one. We've got some pretty interesting teams to talk about. We have the 2 Stanley Cup finalists in this group. I say we don't waste any time. Let's get into it right away. What do you say?
Let's do it, buddy. I'm stoked.
All right. Right off the top, we got Dallas. Key departures here: Mikhail Granlund, Mason Marchment, Logan Stankoven, Evgeny Donov. They did lose a fair bit up front specifically. They had to with the Mikko Rantanen addition and obviously paying him. They get him locked up. And generally, I think you'll take that every time. Adding a superstar caliber player, you'll take it. But it did mean that they lost a lot of depth up front. They did reacquire Radek Faksa to add to the back end, but overall it's definitely a subtraction in terms of depth, but a little bit more firepower up front, wouldn't you say, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can lock up a guy of Rantanen's caliber, I think that it's still a net positive for the team, but it's going to be a lot different the way they play this year, because this is a team that rolled kind of their top 9 at a lot of times during the season, and now it'll be interesting to see if they go just with a strict kind of top 6, and that third line is really just a checking line.
Yep. Let's talk about coaching here. Obviously, Peter DeBoer gets fired for being a dingus, just basically selling out his goaltender.
Not what you put in the show notes, Nate.
Yeah, it's not exactly what I put in the show notes, but that's for patrons only. So little Patreon plug right there for you. Yeah, basically, DeBoer sells out Ottinger, takes no responsibility upon himself for Dallas's exit against Edmonton. That leads to him being fired. Apparently, the room did not appreciate that very much, and rightly so. Glenn Gulutzan is in as coach. It was like a pretty lengthy process for Dallas to decide to hire Glenn Gulutzan. This is a guy who actually has coached in Dallas. I think it was 2012, 2013, somewhere in there that he coached there. He also had a stint in Calgary for a couple of years, 2016, 2017, in that range. And actually, when I went back and looked at the numbers, like he actually had some pretty good chance generation numbers. It was a pretty low skill Calgary team. Like they had Johnny Gaudreau, but it was really before Matthew Tkachuk came into the height of his powers. He was kind of on the up and coming level there before Gulutzan got run out of town. And so I think it's kind of unclear if he's going to promote like, a bit of a chucker friendly system that seemed to be a little bit more what it was like in Calgary. He's prioritizing just generating shots. Obviously, the NHL as a whole has gone very much in the opposite direction since that time. So, yeah, that might happen here as well, where he's kind of evolved his coaching style along with the NHL, or it might be a little bit more the way that that Calgary team was run if he hasn't really changed his kind of basic philosophy on that front. But with more top end talent in Dallas, I think that he can really get stuff going. The real question for me is, will he prioritize the top six with less depth? We talked about the departures, definitely have more firepower up front with Rantanen now, but now it does really feel like there is a true top six, at least in my mind here in Dallas. We'll get into it, but what's your general take on the Glenn Gulutzan edition and your general take on whether the top six could get some more minutes?
I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I think it's an interesting piece that Jim Nill fired Glenn Gulutzan. I don't remember what year it was, like from 2013 or something, whatever it was, and then hired him back. Like that's very strange, right? And that's a risky move for Jim Nill. But this guy is known to be a pretty shrewd GM, like one of the best out there, right? So I have a lot of faith in Jim Nill, and I think this is a great signing for them. We're going from Pete DeBoer, who was like this kind of old dog, right? Like a kind of one of these, Joe Quenneville guys, like respected coach, but absolute dingus, right? As he proved. Whereas Glenn Gulutzan, I think, is going to be more of a little bit more of a collaborative coach or more of a player's coach, right? And I'm excited about the potential here just with this team in general, because Dallas, even under Pete DeBoer, they were an offensive juggernaut. Like they generated a lot of chances. The expected goals for was excellent for Dallas. So Glenn Gulutzan is walking into a really nice situation, and now he's got Rantanen for a full year. So I'm really excited about Dallas. But when I dug in on Gulutzan a little bit, it sounds to me like he's really sort of learned his lesson from what he's done in the past, which was he went in, and we talked about this in our last projections episode with another coach, but Gulutzan went in his last situation with a plan, and he was rigid with that plan. Whereas now it's like you go in and you tailor your plan to the players that you have. And the players that he has in Dallas are an amazing rush heavy team. They're able to generate a lot of shots off the rush, a lot of chances. They have a great power play that didn't really show out last year. That's another area where Glenn Gulutzan is really awesome. He ran the Edmonton Oilers power play when they went bonkers that year. Also, Glenn Gulutzan has he worked with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So he knows how to handle superstar players. I just think it's going to be a net positive for sure for the team. I think they're going to pick up where they left off. And I think Gulutzan's just going to be doing some minor tweaks. He's talked about making them heavier on the forecheck, right? So that's something I'd like to see, turn a few more pucks over. But in terms of the top six, I think the way that this roster is constructed, they're going to have to do that, right? They don't have Mason Marchment, Tyler Seguin, and who was the other player there on that? Duchesne. It was Duchesne. They don't have that for the third line anymore, right? So now Duchesne gets bumped up to the second line. So that's a nice piece for him for fantasy. But yeah, that third line, I do think is going to be more of a checking line. We'll see a little bit more of Maverick Bourque, I think. And, I think the top two lines are going to eat.
Yeah, I tend to agree just because I think it'll be a little bit of a necessity by virtue of the talent that they have. I am a little bit hesitant. Like overall, I was more excited about Dallas than I thought I would be after digging in on what Gulutzan had been able to do in previous stops. But overall, I'm still like a little bit hesitant. You never know with a new coach 100%. Like we make our best guesses at this time of year, but it is the introduction of a lot of variance anytime there's a new coach in town. And for all his flaws as maybe a leader, Peter DeBoer was actually a pretty fantastic coach and won't be out of a job for long, I'm sure. So at the end of the day, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's a plus. The biggest plus that I'm really hoping for is the minutes. I'm hoping that he is more willing to give his star players minutes than DeBoer was, and I'm hoping he can kind of either increase the volume and make some offense happen that way, or at least keep the efficiency that DeBoer was able to extract from these teams, because he was able to do some really good stuff on that front. So I'm a little cautious, but I'm hopeful, and more hopeful than I was before I started really digging in, I will say. Let's talk about the power play here. Rantanen to me is the only actual lock. Robertson should be a lock. He has been the last number of years when healthy. They also have done some 1A, 1B stuff in the past, but in my mind, Robertson should be a lock. Hintz should be a lock. Baby Dry, as he's known around these parts. Very efficient player in relatively low minutes. And then I think you're looking at two big questions. Who's the fourth forward and who's the power play quarterback? Let's start with the three locks that I have there, Blake. Would you agree with those three or would you change something?
It's common sense to me, but I mean, anything can happen. But I think Robertson, he came out the gate slow last year with a foot injury, right? And, he was a bit of a casualty of Pete DeBoer just kind of flipping switches and trying to get something going for the team. He spent some time on power play too, even in the playoffs, which was insane. But I do think that Robertson, Hintz, Rantanen for sure. And then, it's really going to be between Duchesne and Johnston, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that is kind of the interesting factor here. Duchesne did get on that top unit more and more as the year progressed and was pretty effective. Like he was actually a decent piece of when things were going really well on that top power play. Duchesne was there. Big time IPP. Yeah, a lot of good stuff under the hood from Duchesne on that top power play. I think he could get that role again. Maybe even partially just because Johnston figures to be a big part of the penalty kill situation again, and maybe they just kind of split the minutes a little bit that way, like break a tie or whatever you want to call it. I think that could be a way it goes. I don't have a lot of confidence in that take because I do, in the end, kind of trust the talent of Wyatt Johnston. I don't think, like, the guy's still 23 years old.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the ceiling for Wyatt Johnston yet. I think he probably does force his way onto the top power play at some point. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways it could go to open up. I think Johnston will end up with more power play time over the course of the season just by virtue of being a more dynamic player at this stage in both of their careers. But it wouldn't surprise me to see it flip the other way, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Duchesne get that look over Johnston to start the season. On the back end, you have the Harley versus Heiskanen question. I, again, here could see it either way. I mean, Heiskanen has the longevity with the team. He's also dealt with injury, so maybe it's a cheap way for them to keep his minutes down is to keep him off the power play and let him do a little bit more of that even strength role that he's so good at. That being said, he's not like a major penalty kill guy either. It's really just even strength that Heiskanen eats up every single minute that it can possibly get. One of the league leaders in even strength ice time amongst all defensemen every year. So I kind of see this two different ways. You can tell me either story basically at this point in time. Thomas Harley was a part of that power play doing really well at the end of last year, but he wasn't a significant factor in terms of the IPP. He was under 50% IPP. So he really was a bit more of an ancillary piece to that power play going off the way that it did. That doesn't mean that, he wasn't helping with the breakouts and doing the right things to get them set up. And maybe he is the right choice and the better player for the top power play. I think I might even default to that I think he is the better power play one quarterback, but I'm not convinced that that just means that he is going to be the guy. So I am pretty up in the air in terms of the minutes. I gave it to Harley 2 minutes, 45 seconds and Heiskanen 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So I am keeping it pretty tight here.
Yeah, I think my guess would be Harley as well. Obviously, as you mentioned, power play took off with him quarterbacking it in the back half of the season there. But it's worth noting that before the Heiskanen injury, the power play was generating a lot. They just were really unlucky. So Heiskanen was running a good power play there in Dallas. It just wasn't converting, right? And I dug in a little bit on that. Heiskanen, from start of the season to when he got injured, the power play in Dallas was fourth in shots for. They were first in shot attempts in the league, right? With Heiskanen at the helm, second in scoring chances for, and they were third in expected goals for, right? So that sounds really good, but they were sixth worst in the league in shooting percentage, right? That's a lot of luck right there. That's a lot of bad luck, I think, for that Dallas power play. So yeah, Harley comes in, I think it was January 29th or whatever, and it just, things started happening, right? And it's not necessarily due to what Harley did, right? The efficiency increased for sure, but under Harley there, the team was 15th in shots for. They were 11th in shot attempts, and they were second overall in scoring chances for, so still generating a ton, maybe a bit more possession heavy there. And then fifth in expected goals for, and they were fourth in shooting percentage. So 6th worst in the league with Heiskanen, 4th best with Harley there. So there's a lot of luck at play there. Also, Ranto got there March 8th, right? So that's a factor as well. Could work against some teams as well. Just throwing a guy with that kind of gravity onto the power play. Yeah, things change a little bit. But that all said, I think this power play is going to be amazing this year with both guys quarterbacking. It could be either of them, to your point as well. So I just think they were unlucky. J-Rob was injured, and also Pete DeBoer was running kind of a 1A, 1B there, wasn't he? I think this will truly be a top power play here this year. And I don't think it's a spicy take to really say that I think Dallas is going to have a top 10 power play this season, regardless of who's running that power play.
Yeah, I would concur on that account for sure. So let's dig in on the projections here, starting off the top with Baby Dry Rupe Hintz. I've got him for 33 goals, 40 assists, 73 points. You got him for 33 goals, 40 assists, round down 72 points. Basically, we see this player nearly identically. So I think this is probably higher than a lot of people will have him. I do think that there's potential for him to get a bit more minutes this year. I do anticipate, a fellow Finn alongside Rantanen. I do think that they'll play together most, if not all of the year, probably with Robertson on the other side. And that's like a true top line. That's a pretty elite caliber top line in my estimation. And I think Hintz is probably the guy who gets pulled up the most because of that, because of playing with 2 superstar caliber wingers.
Right.
And so I do think that there's real potential, especially if Gulutzan is willing to give him more ice time than DeBoer has been in the past, that this could be really one of Rupe Hintz's best seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've got him for 72. You got him for 73. He paced for 72 last year in just under 17 minutes. So this isn't that crazy of a projection, right? Like I feel like there's room to grow here, but it's kind of a conservative projection almost, because now he's going to get to play, like you said, in this top line. And I really look at the way Jason Robertson started the year last year. It wasn't good, right? He's already not the fastest player in the world. And now he's dealing with a foot injury that's kind of hampering him. And yeah, I think that we're going to see a better season out of Hintz. And he's so fast out there too. Like I love watching Hintz play. He's one of my favorites. So I just think this is a player that is probably in line for a little bit more ice time. And 72 points to me is it's a little bit conservative. I could see him at his absolute peak hitting 80 points. I think that's in the wheelhouse, but we'd have to see probably some better production on the power play, which is he's very good with his on ice numbers on the power play, as you've mentioned before. But in terms of his actual production, like I've only got him for 23 points.
Yeah, I've got him for 21, so I'm pretty close there with you. I could see it going up if he got a little bit more time. I do have him at 2 minutes, 45 seconds time on ice on the power play. If he gets up there, I have Robertson for 3:15 and Rantanen for 3 minutes 30. So I could see it if it's a true power play one. Hintz is on it all year long. You can definitely start to tell yourself the story where he's closer to 30 power play points and things are going right, and he's close to that point per game mark. Let's talk about Robertson next. I have Robertson for 37.5 goals, 50.5 assists. That comes out to 88 points. You have him for, I'm going to have to do math on the fly again, 36 goals, 50 assists, 86 points. We got there. Again, pretty tight here. Not too much difference on the projections. I think that Robertson is pretty undervalued in some of the early drafts. He's going like late second, early third. And honestly, when you start to stack up the amount of shots this guy's going to put out, still I have him projected for 251 shots. He's not a minus in hits, like 67 hits, 42 blocks is what I've got him for here. That's with 18 minutes, 45 seconds total time on ice for me. I can see a ceiling scenario where Gulutzan is like, no, Hintz, Robertson, and Rantanen, you guys are literally one of the best lines in the league. I'm going to give you all the minutes you can handle. And in that case, I can see a scenario where Robertson gets back to pushing 100 points. Quite honestly, I think that's possible, if not probable, for Jason Robertson this year.
Yeah. Honestly, when I was projecting him, there wasn't that much I was changing at even strength. It was kind of just in and around his averages, right? And what I think he's going to do. In fact, I probably bumped it up a tiny bit because, again, like I said, he came in a little bit injured there, but now he's got Rantanen on his line. So there's a little bit more there at even strength. That's potential. But then this Dallas power play was not to the level that it needed to be. And Jason Robertson was a major casualty of that. He only had 19 power play points on the year. So I think that's going to float him as well, because I think he's closer to a 25 power play point guy. I've got him for 28, right? And that comes out to 86 points. So we've seen what this guy can do, right? 109 point season in 22-23. I think that's absolute ceiling. I really don't see him touching that again unless, he just takes a step in his game, right? But I don't see that happening this year, but I could see 90-point Robertson this year for sure. Like, I feel like all my Dallas projections are a little bit light because I'm trying not to shoot the moon, you know what I mean? And like you said, Glenn Gulletson, we've got variance in there, right? We have to take that into consideration, even though I think it's going to be a positive. But yeah, I just think there's so many ways for Jason Robertson to get to this 85, 86, 87 point season. And I feel really comfortable with it. And where he's being drafted, I feel is reasonable as well. You can get him, mid second round, early second round, mid, sometimes late second round. And I feel really good about getting Robertson there.
Right, Mikko Rantanen, I have for 33 goals, 52 assists, 85 points. You have him for 36 goals, 58 assists, round down to 93 points. So this is our biggest difference. You are 8.1 points higher on Rantanen than I am. I think this is one we should dig in on a little bit for the people here. Let's start off with the big numbers. Power play points I have for 28, and I have them for 20 minutes average time on ice.
Yeah, I got him for 35 power play points. So there's a big difference there. And then, what do I have? I have just under 20 minutes on the season.
Yeah, so let's dig into the power play then. I have Rantanen at 3.5 minutes on the power play, 65% IPP, 60 shots, 4/60, and 15% on ice shooting percentage.
Yeah, I'm like 335 on the power play, 68% IPP, 63 shots, 4/60, and then 16.4 on ice shooting percentage. So hot all around there. But I do feel good about that shots 4/60. Like this is a power play that was chucking pucks. Like like I mentioned, some of those numbers, like some of the best in the league. So I feel like that number is going to be pretty high, probably in the 60s at the very least. What did you have for shots 4/60 again?
60 on the dot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I just think that we've regressed away from that in years past. Like it's not Colorado's power play either. It is this power play and a little bit of a different version. I don't think we can reliably go to that higher on ice shooting percentage unless you're predicting the power play to be much better at converting than it was last year. I think in the end it kind of evened out over the course of the season from the start to the finish. I don't have him exceeding, the other guys on ice shooting percentage or exceeding their shots 4/60 numbers. I think Robertson is still probably the linchpin here. He has been for a while. That's been the highest IPP member of this power play for quite a while. Rantanen has never really been that guy. Like it's always been, if you go and look at the Colorado IPP on the power play, it's always McKinnon, it's always Makar, and Rantanen is a clear third in terms of the power play involvement. And yeah, maybe he's more involved. Maybe he is the guy in Dallas now, but that doesn't also necessarily mean that Dallas is going to take a lot more shots than they did last year. It doesn't mean that they're going to be more efficient than they were last year. So for me, I'm preaching a little bit of caution on that front because I can't just transplant Rantanen's numbers from Colorado onto Dallas and assume that it's going to work like that. I'd like to, but I think that there's still a lot of variance here. We had that variance right in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
He goes off in the first part of the playoffs and then disappears, and it goes like 3 assists in 5 games and no goals against Edmonton to close it out. We've seen that variance already in a Dallas uniform. Now you add in a new coach, and yeah, maybe they prioritize Rantanen and revamp their whole structure around him, but maybe it doesn't work that way. And maybe, honestly, maybe Jason Robertson is just as good a player as Mikko Rantanen.
I like that. I mean, I just don't see such a steep drop off. Like if we, going to 85 points from like he had 88 last year in a season full of turmoil for him. He played for 3 different teams and he still had 88 points. And some of that was in Carolina where the fit was terrible. like the actual fit into the system, the way Rantanen plays compared to the way Rod Brindamore wants the team to play, it didn't make sense, right? And I think that one of the things that I love about Rantanen here in Dallas is I think that it's a big time fit. Like for instance, when he was with the Canes, like, and I got a lot of this information from Hockey Tactics 2025, Jack Hahn, really good stuff. He talked very like a good bit on Mikko Rantanen and the Hurricanes. And one of the things that he noted was that the Canes like to stack up forwards at the blue line and dump the puck in, right? And then go get it, which we know already. But Rantanen doesn't like to do that. He's at his worst when that happens. He's at his best when he's carrying the puck in and setting up chances, right? Finding line mates with passes and things like that. And now, in Dallas, he's playing with a pretty elite rush team where he's going to get to be initiating play and setting up chances. According to all three zones, too, 5-on-5, Dallas was third in the league in entries that lead to scoring chances for. That they were third mostly without Rantanen in that data set. So I just think that he is going to be the linchpin. This is a guy who was behind Makar and McKinnon in Colorado, and now he's the guy. And I think he's ready for that. This is a superstar style player. And I don't see how he gets less than what he did last season in his first year in Dallas. Like, I just feel really confident in it. I think 93 points or whatever I have him for, like, I feel like that's light. This is a guy that has 100 points locked and loaded. And obviously that was based on minutes. That was based on who he was playing with. But I still think that like 90 to 95 is where this guy's going to live. And I feel really good about that. And I think he's being devalued as well. And people are letting him slide a little bit, maybe further than they should.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a 107-point pace when he was still in Colorado, and obviously everything kind of fell off after there. He scores 18 points in 20 regular season games in Dallas. It is just the power play. Like, actually, we see the even strength stuff working out pretty much the same. We do see Gulletson giving him a ton of even strength ice time. We have that actually pretty similarly, I'm looking at here. So it's really just about that power play. And I just don't know that Rantanen will be that much better than everyone else on that power play. If he's that good, I think it actually raises everybody else. And I would be even more ecstatic to have the other guys on the team. I'm just preaching a little bit of caution with Mikko Rantanen here. I think he's relatively safe around this 85-point mark that I have him. I don't think the floor is much lower than that, but I don't know that we have that 100-point upside anymore in Dallas. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I'll have to wait and see, I guess.
One more thing on Ranto before we move on there, Nate. Sorry, just something that I read as well about Dallas's power play is that something that's interesting about their power play before Rantanen was there is that they didn't really have a shooter, right? Like, they were all kind of shooters. You know what I mean? They didn't have like a Tage Thompson on the flank who's just bombing it, right? Like, they're kind of all responsible for that. Well, I think you throw Rantanen on there now, he's the shooter. And this guy knows how to put the biscuit in the basket. And I think he's going to really prove that. And it's going to change the look on their power play. And I guess, I am pretty high on Dallas' power play. And I think that's going to be the biggest change that they get from Glenn Gulletson as the head coach.
Right, moving on to Wyatt Johnston. I have him for 31 goals, 41 assists, 72 points. You have him for 33 goals, 40 assists, 73 points. Again, we're pretty tight on the projection for Wyatt Johnston. I think Johnston is relatively safe at this number. Again, he's a pretty crucial piece. This is 14 and a half minutes even strength time on ice for me. And I think there's potential for that to be more, but probably not too much, quite honestly, because of the short-handed role that he has, which is a pretty big role for this team. And you like to see that, but it probably also caps his upside in terms of the even strength time on ice, unless Glenn Gulletson really just does go all out. If Johnston, finds chemistry with Rantanen at some point and that becomes the top line, which is a possibility. You can't rule that out either. We all like to sit here in August and say that we know it's going to be Hintz, Robertson, Rantanen all year long, but realistically, we all know things will change in season. So I feel comfortable with this projection for Johnston. I do see a couple of ways, like I have him for 23 power play points if he's on power play 1 all year long. I do see a scenario where he takes another step in terms of his efficiency there, and at 23 years old now he's a point per game player. I can see that. It's definitely not outside of the realm of possibility. What do you think is the ceiling case for Johnston, Blake?
Ceiling for Johnston would be point per game for me, at least for this season, because this team is stacked, right? Like, I don't know that he's behind in the pecking order, but he's in the mix, in these top 5 players here on this team. One thing I do hope that he is on that second line with Matt Duchene. I think they didn't play very much together last year, but Matt Duchene, as much yang as I talk on the man, the guy is elite at facilitation. He's one of the best. Like he's one of the best pure offensive players out there. Certainly like a second tier offensive player. This guy's at the top. And so access to Duchene for Wyatt Johnston, I think, is going to equal some big things, because who did Wyatt Johnston play with last year? Jamie Benn and Evgeny Dadonov. Yep. Come on. And then, he spent some time with Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson. So that's obviously a nice place to be. But I really like the mix there, or the fit with Duchene. And I think that's just going to keep this floor really solid. Like, what are we at? 72, 73 points. I think that's exactly right for this player. I do think this is a guy who's going to be in the 90-point conversation probably within 5 years. But I feel good about this. I think it's a very safe player with room for more, like you said, depending on where he's deployed at even strength.
Absolutely. Keeping it rolling. Matt Duchene up next. I have Duchene for 28 goals, 44 assists, 72 points. You have him for 22 goals, 45 assists, 67 points. So I'm a little bit higher there on Duchene. You look at the all three zone stuff for Duchene, and he shows out in a big way. As you mentioned, really good at doing all the stuff that predates offense, basically. Getting stuff set up so that the puck can go in the net at the end of the day. Have to like that about Duchene. Have to like the potential that he gets way more ice time this year under Gulutzan than he's ever gotten under DeBoer. I think that's a real possibility. I'm not locking that in by any means, but there is a real ceiling case for Duchene in terms of the ice time here that has never been there under Pete DeBoer. So I like that for Duchene as well. I'm building a little bit of that into this here, as I think he will get at least some more than he has in years past.
Yeah, I think the only reason I'm a little bit lower than you, and I'm not sure what you have for power play points, but it's really that. Like, I had Duchene on the second power play there. I had Johnston up and Duchene taking second power play. I still had him as like 225 or something. But he, like we saw towards the end of the year, he was getting some big time power play minutes, and he was really doing something with it. I think they're going to roll with Duchene on the second line. You follow the money, right? Johnston, Hintz, those guys make good money. They're making power play one money, and they should probably be out there at least to start the season. But yeah, like I was just saying, I love the fit with Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston's he's pretty good defensively, so a guy like Duchene can benefit from that, right? And I think at even strength, I'm really loving that. And then if Duchene does get power play one, bang! Now I think, we're looking at like what he's done historically here. Like, this guy, what did he get last year? 82 points. Come on. I mean, the efficiency is insane. That's not real. He's not going to shoot 20% again. That was crazy, right? His line with Marchment and Sagan, they were on one, right? And then obviously he did a lot of good work on the power play. But I think the efficiency is going to come down, and the power play numbers are going to come down a little bit. And that's kind of where I'm landing on, 67 points. But where are you comfortable drafting Duchene? Is this a guy like, is this like a 11th round, 12th round? Like, are you reaching for him a little bit higher? Like, what do you think about the ceiling here?
Yeah, I think the ceiling, like, this is at 17 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice for me. I think if he gets 18 minutes, which is totally within the wheelhouse, if he gets power play one, which again is totally within the wheelhouse, I'm at up 2.5 minutes on the power play. So he could add an extra half minute there easily if he gets on power play one, and it would be more efficient minutes as well. I have him for 19 power play points. He could easily have 25, in between 25 and 30 even,
right,
if he was there all year long. So I do think he has potential to get up to 80 points again. I don't think that's the most likely scenario. That's more of a ceiling case, as we saw this past year where his efficiency was off the charts. But I do think that Matt Duchene is not a guy that I'm willing to pass by lightly in my drafts. Probably I'm hoping to get him in double-digit rounds. He's 179 shots is what I have him for, so he's not like a big-time peripheral guy, 31 hits, 30 blocks. You're not getting peripherals out of Matt Duchene, so it is mostly just about the points. And he's not a big-time goal scorer either, not projecting him to hit 30 goals this year. So realistically, you're just there for the points. But yeah, if I can get Matt Duchene in round 10 or beyond, I'm loving life. Tyler Seguin, the other projected member of line 2 here. I have him for 30 goals, 27 assists, and 57 points, rounding up to 58, I guess. You have him for 24 goals and 32 assists, rounding down to 55 points. Talk to me about Seguin. You obviously have a bit more bearish idea of his shooting talent here.
If you talk Yang on the Sedins, buddy, you're getting moved down the board. All right, you frickin' guy, gap tooth wonder. Oh, God, I'm sorry, I'm not going to body shame this man. It's not even body shaming; it's dental shaming. Tyler Seguin. I mean, you're a millionaire. All right, go to the orthodontist. Let's get it sorted out. Damn, this is terrible. I'm sorry. Sorry, Tyler Seguin. But anyways, yeah, this is a guy that, again, they just ran hot. This line ran insanely hot. And I feel like, I mean, it's another year older, right? This he's going to be 34 next season. Old man withers, right? Nate, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, he's going to be a good supplementary piece. I think he's going to come into the season healthy. I feel good about the projection, like 55. I mean, that's fine. You know, this is a guy that you can get in your last couple picks of your draft, or if he's not drafted, he's going to be an excellent streamer for Dallas, but he's not going to get power play 1. I still have him for 10 power play points. How many power play points do you have him for?
I have Tyler Seguin for 11.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we're similar here. It's just, there's way too many good players on this team now. For them to be trotting Seguin out like for really important minutes, you know what I mean? And more like a player we're talking about coming up here, Jamie Benn, like Tyler Seguin's still going to get plenty of opportunity. But yeah, I feel like he's a typical second liner, 55 points, book it.
Yeah, I don't hate that. The 200 plus shot potential, I think, is the exciting piece for me. The possibility of getting more ice time again as a true second liner now after being on that quote unquote third line in previous years. So that adds a little bit more there. I am a little bit of a believer in the shooting talent here. I have him for 15% even strengths. Shooting percentage here over the past couple seasons, he's done that. He's gone 16.5 and 16.7 in 88 total games over the past 2 seasons. So it's not a huge sample size, but it's a decent enough one. And I do expect that he'll get a lot of his time alongside Duchesne again this year, which has been his most consistent line mate. So I don't have a huge reason to regress him significantly off that. So overall, I am actually pretty interested in Seguin as a super late dart throw, especially if there's a good Dallas schedule coming up. I think he'll be on the waiver wire in a lot of 12-team, 10-team leagues, and he might just be a guy that can help you out this year. Moving along to Jamie Benn, the Stars captain, resigns for a basement deal and just wants to stay with the team and keep the squad together. Respect that piece, but I do think his days for fantasy are mostly behind us at this point. I have him for 16 goals, 22 assists, 38 points. You have him for 14 goals, 26 assists, and 40 points. So talk to me about Ben. Do you think there's any chance that he gets back to some power play 1 time where he has been at times in the past few years and just occupying that one spot and setting up and getting some shots off? Or do you think that there's any reason to think that Jamie Benn has a ceiling for fantasy?
I mean, never say never. You know, I think I actually do believe that if they did that with Jamie Benn, he would produce, right? He's shown that. Right. It's just he didn't get that power play 1 last year and he only had 10 points. But I bet if you did give him power play 1 all year, he'd probably get like 23 power play points. He does that, right? He's just good in that role, but it's not going to happen. Right. And digging into on Jamie Benn at even strength, I wanted to regress him a lot more, but it didn't even make sense for me to regress him. I just think the ice time's going down and like he knows his role at this point of his career. And like you said, signed for the basement deal here just to be on the team. He's a glue guy. I bet he's probably really good in the room, like just helping out with this team. And he wants to win with this team. And I think he sees an opportunity. So he'll do whatever he needs to do. He's obviously going to be good for Bangers Cats leagues, right? You got, he's not shooting a ton, but hits, PIMs. He does that. This guy's an absolute dingus unit. So dingus unit. Oh, that's, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to put those two together. But yeah, it really like 40 points. He's going to be a good streamer. I think Jamie Benn is a guy that you'll be like, yeah, I can pick him up for a stream and then bounce him. It's not a guy I'm interested in at all for fantasy.
All right. And lastly, of the forwards, Maverick Bourque, I had a little projection for him. I don't think you've gotten to him yet, Blake, but I have him for 14 goals, 17 assists, 31 or 32, I guess, with the round up. But Either way, Maverick Bork is really just a guy that I'm, throwing on the watch list. I want to see if he ever gets a chance to move up the lineup. Do they kind of split up what we're seeing as the second line here and try to split things a little bit more evenly between a second and a third line? I wouldn't do that if I was Glenn Gulletson, but the myth of rational coaching is one that we do not ascribe to here at Apples and Ginos. So Maverick Bork, if he does get an opportunity up the lineup, I mean, this is a guy who won the AHL MVP award in his early 20s, and I think he does still have a lot of promise. He just would need a lot of ice time with some pretty good players to make the best of it. Just a player that I want to watch in case that extra deployment does come through for him. Moving along to the defense, Thomas Harley. This is the big one. I have him for 16 goals, 38 assists, 54 points. You have him for 16 goals, 42 assists, 58 points. So we're pretty tight on the projection, only 4 points difference there. And really, I think the difference is probably just going to be a little bit of extra power play time on your side. What do you have for power play points? I have him for 16.5.
For Harley, let me see. What do I get? 20 power play points.
Yeah. So there it is. And I can see it. I can see that scenario coming true, and it would not surprise me in the least. The interesting piece for me here, I have Harley at this projection, which is not like assured power play 1 deployment. Definitely, regressing some of the efficiency there. I'm not saying that he's getting that power play 1 all year. Comes out to my 17th ranked defenseman in APL scoring. Apples and Ginos Patron League scoring. Click the link in the description below to join. But yeah, I think this is a situation where Thomas Harley is probably going to go off the board right around the 17th defenseman, or at least in that range, in that tier, right? But there is a real ceiling scenario for me here with Thomas Harley where he's on that power play 1. He actually turns around some of that IPP, some of that efficiency, gets in on a bit more of those power play points, and all of a sudden you're talking about a 25-point power play point, Thomas Harley, and that rockets him up to the 60 to 65 point range with good blocks, with good shots, and all of a sudden he's a top 10 fantasy defenseman on the year. That's a real possibility for me with Thomas Harley.
Yeah. I mean, it does stink. Like it's for us in fantasy, obviously for Dallas, it's amazing when you have 2 studs like Thomas Harley and Miro Heiskanen. They're actually similar in the way that they sort of profile. Like they're amazing at puck retrievals, right? These guys are like, you got, this is your pairing. You get these 2 out here. Like you dump it in, you're not getting the puck. These guys they're winning that board battle and they're putting the puck out like in a high percentage play, right? That's, on somebody's stick. These guys can both do that. They're both great rushing defensemen as well. But Harley has really shown to be efficient in his goal scoring. I love that. Like 15 goals 2 years ago, 16 goals last year. And again, these are in kind of, second power play defenseman minutes, right? Maybe not minutes. So he got like 21 the first year and then 23 last year. So he's getting good minutes, but he wasn't getting power play 1 consistently either year. And he was still able to load up with double-digit goals. So I really think there's a good chance for him that he is going to get power play 1 for most of the year. I projected him for under 3 minutes, like just under 3 minutes, maybe 250 or something power play time. And then Heiskanen I got for 225 or something like that. So that's sort of the way I'm seeing it. I could see it reverse, honestly, like, and that's kind of the frustrating thing for fantasy, but I just like the efficiency for Harley. I like his ability to break out the puck. I like his ability to rush. And then I like the team around him. I think this is going to be a high octane offense with a much improved power play. And I think Harley and Heiskanen are really going to produce here for fantasy. And this is a year that if Harley wasn't there, I'd probably be back up on like 70-point Heiskanen. I'd be like, yep, this is going to be great. He's going to get 70 again. Fun fact, folks, I predicted Heiskanen for 70 points like 2 years ago and he got like 42. It was terrible. I don't know what the hell happened, but I love both these players, but I think Harley is on the way up. And I always like to think about Cale Makar and Devin Taves when I'm looking at teams with like 2 pretty elite defensemen. And, Thomas Harley is not Cale Makar, but to me, he would be the Makar, right? Whereas Heiskanen is the Devin Taves, and they play together and it just works. And it's so freaking solid. And it's going to be amazing for fantasy, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about Heiskanen then. I have him for 10 goals, 38 assists, 48 points. You have him for 10 goals, 38 assists, 48 points. Look at that. So,
Yeah.
this is a spot where we do agree on the projection for the player. Again, a guy who's going to have decent shots. He's going to have decent blocks. Um, Good things for fantasy purposes. Heiskanen, I've seen him going pretty late in drafts this year. I
Mm.
think you're going to get some of that injury discount that we love here at Apples and Ginos, where people are worried about him getting injured again. I'm not going to be scared off by that, especially if you're going to give him to me in the 10th, 12th round. If you're going to give him to me that late in the double digit rounds, I'm getting banking a 48-point defenseman back there as maybe my fourth defenseman already at that point. That is just found money to me. And then you have the added bonus of what happens if he gets power play one for any reason. Either they give it to him over Harley, or there's a Harley injury and all of a sudden Heiskanen is playing 27, 28 minutes a night and he's just rocking. So I think there's a really good case to be taking Heiskanen where he's going, at least in the early mocks here. We'll see where, Yahoo, when they come out, where they have him in terms of ADP and stuff. It's probably going to be a little bit higher just because of his past history and the name brand value there. But we'll see. Either way, in the early going here, I do think Heiskanen is looking like a value.
Yeah. I mean, Yahoo does crazy things with these injuries, right? Like we've seen it before. I've got Braden Point one year, like pick 120, like stuff like Werenski last year, right? We got him at like 113. We're getting crazy value. So I bet Heiskanen will be, ADP 100 and later. And that is an absolute smash. Like you said, there's so much room for more. There's so many ways that he could outdo this 48-point projection, right? He's not going to go bonkers, right? I think I've come to that conclusion with Heiskanen. Is like he had a 70-point season. That's not the player he is, right? That just the power play went nuclear that year, and he was a big part of it. But I don't see that happening again. But a 50 to 55-point defenseman, maybe 60-point ceiling if everything goes like aces up, he could do that, right? And to get him after pick 100, damn. Right. Get a piece of some Dallas this year, folks. I like Heiskanen a lot because I think Harley's value, at least in the best ball drafts we've been doing, and that's a little different, but he's getting picked real early, right? Like 5th round, 6th round Harley, whereas Heiskanen's going like 11th round. And that makes no sense to me. That's an absolute smash. So if, Yahoo ADPs come out and I imagine Heiskanen's going to be down there, this guy's going to be on a lot of my teams.
Last couple here, Asa Lindell, I did a projection. You haven't done him, Blake, but I don't think he's going to be super relevant for fantasy, but I got him for 5 goals, 19 assists, 24 points. Biggest thing he does is block. I have him projected for 171 blocks, so pretty good stuff there from Asa Lindell. And then Leon Bichelle, I think it's Bichelle is the correct way to pronounce it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I have him for 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points. You have him for 6 goals, 12 assists, 18 points. Huge projection there from you, Blake. But the real attraction here is the hits. I have him for 273 hits in just over 15 minutes average time on ice. So if he gets more than third pair minutes, this could be a monstrous season. This could be a guy who gives Kiefer Sherwood a run for his money.
273 hits, Nate. That's light. All right, that's a way light. This guy's an absolute fridge. I got him for 327.
There you go.
All right, he's going bonkers this year. This guy's gonna be a target for you in your Cats leagues. I don't. There's no way you could leave a guy like this undrafted in your playing your Bangers Cats leagues.
All right, let's wrap it up. Top 3 targets, Blake. Give it to me.
Mikko Ranto, get him on your team right now. Yeah. I love Rantanen this year. I'm planting my flag here with Mikko Rantanen. I think this is a guy that I'm hoping to get on a bunch of my squads. I really do think that he's a true superstar and he's going to show that on this team. I like the setup here. So yeah, Rantanen, 90 plus points. I like that. Rupa Hintz I've got next because of the value that I've seen so far in drafts. And, like we said, Nate and I both have him for over 70 points. That's amazing for where he's going in drafts. So I think you can absolutely target him. And then I got Thomas Harley because even if his value is a little bit nuked, I want to take a chance there. I want to take a swing with Thomas Harley. I want a piece of that because if things go the way that I think they're going to go, yeah, we're looking at a 60-point defenseman that, you got after the first tier of really good defensemen went off the board. So yeah, that's where I'm at there.
Top three targets for me. Number one, Jason Robertson. I do think when we tally it all up at the end of the season, Jason Robertson will be the number one fantasy point scoring player from the Dallas Stars. So I'm planting my flag there against the Mikko Rantanen flag, I guess. Rupe Hintz is my number two, all the reasons we've already stated. And Thomas Harley, I put here at number three just because I think he has a higher ceiling than Miro Heiskanen, but I do also really like Miro Heiskanen. I thought about putting him at three here as well. Next team, Blake, Detroit Red Wings. Key departures, not really anything, right? Vladimir Tarasenko, they barely used the guy last year. Christian Fischer out. Key additions, John Gibson is the headliner here for sure. Hopefully going to stabilize what has been a goaltending position in a fair amount of flux for the last number of years. They also had James Van Riemsdyk and Mason Appleton to round out the forward group here. Let's dig in on the coach, though, because this is the interesting thing. When you really start to pick apart the season that was for Detroit, you look at Todd McLellan when he comes in, just a monstrous upgrade over Derek Lalonde, that Groot-looking guy. I can't believe he was on all the Sportsnet shows all through the postseason too. I just can't stand looking at him, and I also can't stand what he did to my Detroit players' shares.
Painful.
Last year. Thankfully, Todd McClellan's in here, and it was immediate. Like, basically, as soon as Todd McClellan got behind the bench, everybody took off. The power play went nuclear. Everything went right with Todd McClellan there.
Yeah, there's not much to say. It's just it was quite a shift there. Derek Lalonde was running this team to the ground. McClellan, a legit coach that came in and did what he needed to do. And Detroit still has so much to improve on, right? Like, they played a lot better under McClellan, but it's going to be really telling how they kind of approach this year because, yeah, we've been in the Yzer plan for a little while now. Like, when is enough? You know, like, I think it's a smart move to lock up McClellan to this coaching contract they did here. That's the right coach, in my opinion, but does he have the right players?
That is the question. Let's start with the power play there. It's locked in my mind. No chance they change this up after how good last year was for this power play. Larkin, Raymond, Kane, DeBrincat, Seider. The only question I will entertain at all is, can Simon Edvinsson displace Mo Seider with time? They also have Axel Sandin Pellikka in the wings. Get it? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, dang. Okay, nice. I like that.
So basically, I think Mo Seider is a perfectly cromulent option as the power play one quarterback, but I do think that Simon Edvinsson also has a lot of potential there. Not a lot. I think both of them are fine. I don't think either one is a difference-making power play one quarterback, and so I am defaulting to Seider, especially with how well it went last year. If it sticks that way, then I won't be surprised, but that's the only thing I can really see possibly changing about this power play this year.
Cromulent. Acceptable or adequate? As an example, this continental breakfast was perfectly cromulent. All right. So there you go, everybody. We learned something today, and I always do when I'm with Nate, but this is outside of the fantasy hockey realm. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you, buddy. I don't even know what the question was, but yeah, that I don't think there's any way. Why would they take Seider off here? They're going to the old mill. They're getting some Seider. This guy's, it just works what he's doing on the power play there. And Detroit's power play, they were very efficient, but also I think it's for real, right? They, again, something I like to look at, expected goals for on the power play, and Detroit was second in the league, right? So it makes sense, right? They were converting at an appropriate rate, right? They were fourth best power play in the league. They had the second best expected goals for. It makes sense, right? So I don't see any reason why they would change it. And I would expect that this power play is going to be pretty damn good next year too.
Right. Let's dig in on the projections here. Dylan Larkin.
Like Star Trek. The Cromulants are coming.
Just because it's close to Romulan, you're going to go there? Okay, I see.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right. Do you watch Star Trek The Next Generation, Nate? I know we've talked about this, but since the last time we talked about it, have you watched it?
I haven't watched more, no.
Do you know who Patrick Stewart is?
Yes, obviously.
All right. He's a very handsome man. Can we at least agree on that?
I think everyone agrees on that. Anyone who doesn't agree on Patrick Stewart being a handsome man, I don't know. They can catch these hands. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, right. I'm with you on that.
All right, Dylan Larkin, 31 goals, 43 assists, 74 points for me, 34 goals, 41 assists, 75 points for you. Not much difference between us here. Larkin, I thought was going to be a bit more of a point per game player. Now it seems like he's taken a little bit of a step back into this mid 70s range, and
Mhm.
it's still a great spot to be. Still shoots a ton. I have him for 244 shots. He's still going to be on that power play, although, he's not like the biggest member in terms of driving that power play. I have him for a 57% IPP on the power play, so not a huge share there.
Yeah.
I think that Dylan Larkin will get his, but I don't know that we have the same kind of ceiling that I was once hoping for with Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm with you too. I feel like he's kind of settled into the player that he's going to be, at least with this team, and kind of the line that he's playing with. Like he's got Lucas Raymond, who is really blossoming into like a kind of a superstar, right? And maybe Larkin is more that calming defensive presence that allows a guy like Lucas Raymond to go do the things he does, right? So I think it's kind of line construction and team construction that's kind of keeping Larkin at this place, but still 75 points. Like, yeah, that's a pretty nice projection. This is a guy that's going to be very valuable for you. Unfortunately, he's center only, right? So this is one of those guys. Hopefully, you're getting a little bit later. I've seen him going pretty late in the mock drafts I've been doing so far, like 8th round, 9th round. Dylan Larkin. That
Mhm.
feels really good because, yeah, we've got him projected for 75 points, but this is a guy that paced a point per game like 3 seasons before this. So I think it's reasonable for him to get back up there. I'm just not projecting it that way. So that said, he's still going to eat on the power play, even with the low IPP. I've got him a little bit higher than you at like 62%. Again, a little bit of a bounce there, but I mean, 27 points on the power play, 25. Who cares? He's still gonna do some damage there, and it's going to be a great power play. And he's going to play with good players all year.
Right. Next up, James Van Riemsdyk. I really don't know who to put here as the
Yeah.
top line left wing. I kind of just defaulted to throwing in Van Riemsdyk. I imagine it'll be a bit of a revolving door throughout the season. Last year, they did try Marco Casper there for a while, but it seemed to me like he had more chemistry as a second line center between DeBrincat and Kane. And I think that's kind of how they envision Marco Casper long term. Larkin line one, Casper line two. That's how they'd
Yeah.
like it to be in, for the next 5 years at least. So I think they'll try to return Casper to center, which leaves this left wing line one spot open. I could see Van Riemsdyk. I could see, maybe finally Jonathan Berggren takes another step. I'm not banking on that by any means. I think it might just be a revolving door. Either way, Van Riemsdyk, we're talking about him here. I have him for 11 goals, 20 assists, 31 points. You have him for 17 goals, 20 assists, and rounding down to 36 points. So you're a little bit more excited on Van Riemsdyk than I am. Do you think that he is pretty likely to get this role to start?
I do. I think he's a perfectly cromulent option there on the top line. But
36 points is now the bar.
well, I mean, he's not going to spend the whole year there, I would say. But I think that's kind of what they're planning on. And if things take off, then he's going to beat 36, right? He could get 46 potentially. This is a guy that's reasonable with his offense, right? It's been a long time. Been a long time for JVR, right? But he's an offensive player. He doesn't really do much else. So I think that he'll be in there just to help facilitate things. And Larkin and Raymond are really good players, good puck possession players, decent rush players too. So I think Van Riemsdyk can be the guy, kind of that Kyle Wellwood, just get in the spots and put the biscuit in the basket. And I think he probably will have a little bit of a better year this year than he did last year, just because I think he'll be playing up the lineup a little more than he did in Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario I can see for him is that Raymond bounces a bunch of pucks in off him this year, and it's
Yeah, he
definitely
does that.
possible. Van Riemsdyk has been, a pretty good net front guy throughout his career. So if he can physically get there in time for the puck to arrive, then maybe there's a chance.
Jeez, catching strays here on the Apples and Ginos podcast, and that's fine. Sorry, JVR. He's a big listener in the show too, Nate. You're just alienating everyone.
Alienating the listener base is what I
Yeah,
do
that's
here.
fine. Me too. That's fine.
All right, Lucas Raymond, I have for 26 goals, 52 assists, 79 points with the roundup. You have him at 28 goals, 50 assists, 78 points. So we're quite tight here on Raymond. I think that he's a pretty good player. He doesn't really do the things that we really want for fantasy at the level we want them. Like his best case scenario is probably like 30 goals, right? He's going to get a ton of that on the power play. If the power play drops off in efficiency, that's really bad news for Raymond because that's, one of the things he's best at. Yeah. immense power play production last year, and he's not like a big time shooter. He's not like a bad shooter. I have him for 198 shots, so it's not like bad, but it's definitely not upper echelon. Definitely not upper echelon in any of the other peripheral stats. So it's just kind of what you get with Lucas Raymond at this point. Maybe there's a chance that they start to get more ice time. I have him for 18 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice. If he gets more, then yeah, maybe there's a chance to get some more points. But yeah, just the profile of the player doesn't lend itself quite as well for fantasy, and that's why I end up finding myself a little bit lower on Raymond than consensus, even when I have him projected for nearly a point per game.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because you and I have had this conversation over the last 3 years, and where we've sort of developed the way that we evaluate players. And Raymond is one of those guys that he doesn't generate individual shots or chances for himself, right? So at the end of the day, it is kind of hard to just feel really excited about a player that's reliant on other people to kind of do stuff, right? And then in Raymond's case in particular, reliant on big power play numbers, right? Like he was 4th overall in the league, 4th. Lucas Raymond, this is crazy. He had 37 power play points last year. Just went nuclear. Same with Marty Necas, right? 2 guys we were pretty damn high on, right, Nate? Oh yeah. But yeah, I see that Raymond is going to have a step back because 37 power play points, that's just a special season. That's not something we could bank on. Before this big season for Lucas Raymond, he had 16 power play points, right? Granted, like he finally got bumped up full time to power play 1. So, I've got him projected for 32 and a half power play points. What do you have Raymond for?
I'm for 33.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still projecting a massive power play point season. But like you said, now there's ways, instead of for him to get more points, there's a lot of ways that he could get less points, right? And I think I agree with you there, where it's like, I'm not looking to go and acquire Raymond because, there's some variance that could happen where he gets less instead of more. So I think we're in agreement there.
Next up, Marco Kasper. Have him here centering the second line between DeBrincat and Kane. Good spot to be for fantasy purposes. I have him for 21 goals, 24 assists, 45 points. You have him for 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points. Obviously not projecting top power play minutes for him. I have him at just 1.5 minutes power play time. I do think he's the next guy up for the power play, in case of injury or if they really want to shake things up. The only other player I could see any potential for would be if they wanted JVR to be a guy who stands in front of the net. He's done that for much of his career. Obviously a different player at this stage, but he has done that in the past. So I think Marco Kasper is the most logical guy to be the beneficiary of any injuries up the lineup. Obviously, if it happened to DeBrincat and Kane, it might be a net negative just because of the even strength. But either way, I like Marco Kasper. I like that, even at 60 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice, I do have him projected for 179 shots, 184 hits. Like, that'll play. I'm actually pretty into Marco Kasper.
Yep, for sure. Value is going to be a lot higher in Cats leagues. But yeah, he's draftable. I had this guy for the last month of a category league that I was in that I ended up winning. And he was a big part of it because he was just going off. I think he got a hat trick in one of the games and he was popping off with his hits and things like that. So I absolutely agree with you. I think there's a lot of chemistry there with DeBrincat and Kane. And DeBrincat, I'm excited to talk about him because that's a guy I'm really excited about. And I think is an underrated player that we can get at value, and he makes his teammates a lot better. And I think Marco Kasper was a big beneficiary of playing with a guy like Alex DeBrincat. So yeah, I think we've also got pretty conservative projections for Marco Kasper as well. Again, I think there's ways that he could get more. And I do think that he's probably the next guy up as well. He's kind of like the Gabe Filardi of this line, right? Go, forecheck, win board battles, get the puck to the puck possession guys, and then get open and fire the puck. So I'm a big fan of the player, big fan of the hits.
Definitely. Alex DeBrincat next up. I have him for 35 goals, 35 assists with the round down at 69 points, which is pretty nice. You have him for 35 goals, 38 assists, 73 points. Good stuff there across the board for DeBrincat. Also 250 shots for me, so the volume is there. Adds up in your points leagues and in your Cats leagues. So I like that for DeBrincat. That's with 27 power play points, big portion of the power play as well. Basically, all across the board, I like Alex DeBrincat. I think he's pretty solid. I don't see a huge variance up or down from this for Alex DeBrincat. I think he's going to be right in this wheelhouse, 65 to 75 points, somewhere in there, depending on some percentages. But I think you can pretty much take Alex DeBrincat to the bank, and that's a pretty valuable thing.
Absolutely. That'll play. I mean, the only thing I don't like about DeBrincat is his hits that have been going down slowly, right? This used to be a guy that was good for 100 hits. Last year in 82 games, he had 33. Buddy, what are you doing? He's an old dancing boy now. Like, this is not the time, all right? We need some hits out of there. But, I mean, we'll take everything else that he's got. This guy is a glue guy. He's a big-time play driver. I love Alex DeBrincat. All three zone stuff. This guy's in the 98th percentile in scoring chance contributions, which are individual scoring chances for and scoring chance assists. He's in the 98th percentile there, and he's in the 98th percentile in shot contributions, which is individual shots for and shot assists, right? And that works out to like 8th overall in the league in shot contributions and 19th overall in scoring chance contributions in the league. Alex DeBrincat. And he's out here in these fantasy hockey streets after like pick 80. Okay, so get you some Alex DeBrincat in your life. The power play is there as well, 29 power play points last year, and I think those hits should probably come back. Did you get him for an increase or a bounce back in hits, Nate?
Not really. I have him for 39.
Oh, God. I got him for 59. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but the guy's a little pit bull. Like, get out there and start banging people, buddy.
All right, that would be some entertaining television for sure. Let's move on to Patrick Kane. I have him for 24 goals, 50 assists, 74 points, rounding down. You have him for 24 goals, 46 assists, 70 points. This is a player we actually have the most discrepancy in, 4.5 points total, so definitely not one of our bigger ones, but worth digging in a little bit here. I'm for 30 points on the power play. Let's start there.
Yeah, I got 29 for Kane on the power play, so yeah,
Okay.
big time there.
So actually, most of it is at even strength, where I'm actually pretty convinced that this is a player who just worked under McClellan. I'm for 74% IPP at even strength, 15 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice.
Yeah, even strength, just under 15. I got 71 IPP, and what did I get here? Yeah, 28 shots, 4 per 60, 10.15 on ice shooting percentage. But I did have him at like a little bit inefficient there, 9.6 shooting percentage, just individually at even strength. So I don't know, that's making a difference there, at least goals anyway.
Yeah, I have him at 9.5 on ice shooting percentage, but I'm at 30.5 on ice shots for. That's mostly leaning on what he was able to do under McClellan in the kind of second chapter of that season for the Red Wings. So, nice. Yeah, I'm pretty into Kane. Suffers a little bit from the same syndrome as Lucas Raymond, where he doesn't do a lot of the things that we like for fantasy. So the end results, I think the biggest thing for me with Kane is that he might end up with pretty similar numbers. Like if you just look at the raw fantasy points at the end of the season, he might not be that far off from Lucas Raymond in terms of like the goals are not that far off. He's a little bit less goals, a little bit less assists, a little bit less power play points, a little bit more shots, a little bit less on the other peripherals. But at the end of the day, you sum it all up and you get Patrick Kane like way, way later and he provides similar value. I think that's a real possibility. At his age, sure, there's some risk that he just falls off. I think I'm willing to take that though, where Patrick Kane is going to go in drafts.
Yeah, I like the signing. I mean, $3 million for Patrick Kane. That's a super steal there. This guy's still got juice for sure.
All right. Let's continue on here. I mean, I did JT Compher. I don't really want to talk about JT Compher. His sister plays for the Toronto Scepters, and she's pretty awesome, but JT Compher is not quite so awesome. 13 goals, 18 assists, 31 points for Compher. He's going to play third line center. He sometimes gets promoted up the lineup, but he never really looks good when he does. So, unfortunately, I did do the projection because he is going to skate a lot of minutes this year, I think, for the Detroit Red Wings. But in a perfect scenario, Nate Danielson will be coming for his role sooner rather than later, and they will be free of his salary and free of the Yzerplan.
All right.
Let's move on to the defense here. Let's do Edmonton first. I have him for 7 goals, 25 assists, 32 points. You have him for 7 goals, 23 assists, 30 points. So pretty tight here. Really the only way that he gains anything more than streamer status is if he does get that top power play somehow. Obviously the most likely case that he would get there is through a Mo Seider injury. That's possible, I guess. They still have Eric Gustafson on the roster there, but he seemed to fall completely out of favor with Todd McClellan specifically. So I am projecting Simon Edvinsson to be the second unit power play quarterback and to be the first guy in line for top power play if it were to come to pass. I mean, the problem is that he doesn't really shoot. I'm projected for under 100 shots, which is really
Yeah.
tough to deal with. 94 hits, which is okay for a defenseman, but nothing to write home about. 152 blocks, which is pretty good. Overall, just not a guy that you're going to get excited about for fantasy purposes.
Yeah. I don't know. Detroit's defense in general. Like, yeah, Mo Seider, sure. We're pretty excited about that. We'll talk about him in a second, but we're not that excited. He's very consistent. We know what we're getting with the player, but in terms of offense from the back end here, it's slim pickings, right? We're talking about Edvinsson right now, and you projected him for 31. I projected him for 30. Like, and he's the number 2 here in Detroit. So one thing I was reading about with Detroit too is like their forwards are good at rushing the puck, but the defense, they're good at retrieving the puck and also stopping entries. So guys like Mo Seider, Edvinsson as well is really good at that, stopping entries, stopping scoring chances at the line. But when it comes to breaking the puck out, they kind of panic a little bit. Then they might flip it off the wall for a turnover in the neutral zone, or it's really low percentage plays, right, that don't equal offense. And that's kind of the way Edmondson profiles, at least at this point in his career. So yeah, it's not a player I'm really going to get excited about. Certainly not for next year, unless they just zing him right to power play 1 and give him like the 3-minute treatment. And now they're digging in on this player, and Mo Seider's like a supplementary piece. Yeah, maybe then. But yeah, Edmondson's not really bringing much to the table this year.
All right, let's do Seider here. 9 goals, 41 assists, 50 points for me. 9 goals, 38 assists, 47 points for you. That is with 24 power play points for me. So obviously, anytime he's not on the top power play, he loses a ton of value. 167 shots, 222 hits, 189 blocks for Seider. This is what you like most Seider for, is all the peripheral stats that he brings to the table. I'm for 25 and a half minutes average time on ice. He's going to get all the work. He's just not a very efficient player. Like, I have him for 30% IPP. If he was at all efficient in terms of being involved in offense at even strength, then he could have a really big breakout season and absolutely break fantasy given the peripheral contributions here. But it's just not something we've seen from Mo Seider in any of his seasons to date. And so, therefore, it's kind of just more of the same. That being said, I think this year is the year that I'm the most confident I've ever been about that power play role. And so I'm a lot more willing to take that swing on Seider and just kind of take to the bank what he's going to do for me peripherally. Pretty solid points floor, if not elite.
Yeah, I like that. I just feel like this guy's kind of old faithful. You know what you're getting with Mo Seider, and it's not going to change. Every year when I go to project this guy, the numbers look like amazingly similar each single year. Like his shots, his individual scoring chances for, the on-ice shooting percentage, like it's all right in the same area. Like he doesn't really go, big or go low. It's kind of all right in the middle there. And then he has good power play numbers, right? 24 last year. That's his career high. I could absolutely see him doing that again. I've got him for 21, but yeah, it's just I don't know. Where do you draft Mo Seider in points leagues? I think that's a really good question. So where are you drafting Mo Seider in points leagues, and where are you drafting him in Cats leagues?
Yeah, I mean, in Cats leagues, you can definitely make a case for him as honestly as early as the late second in my mind, just because the peripheral floor is so good there. It's kind of like Brady Tkachuk in that regard in terms of defensemen, right? Him and Mackenzie Weegar profile similarly in that regard. So in Cats leagues, he's super valuable. In points leagues, it's really going to depend on what kind of peripheral weight you have. If you have good weights for shots and blocks and hits and stuff like that, then obviously he's elevated quite a bit. If you don't, if it's more towards like a points only kind of format, then he goes way, way down the list. So it's really dependent on your scoring settings and something you'll really have to take into account depending on the type of points league you're in. All right, Blake, we got here top 3 targets. Give them to me.
Give it to me, Neil. Yeah, Lucas Raymond, number 1 here. I switched this after you made the thing, so I would probably put Alex DeBrincat first, but I'm going to go with what I've written here. I think they're very similar players. Lucas Raymond, big time offense driver. Obviously, we talked about the ways he could kind of slip down, but I also think that his value is good in draft so far, and there's still a lot of value at his ADP. So I like that. I like taking a swing on Raymond there. Alex DeBrincat, I've already made my case for him. I think this is going to be one of the most valuable players on this team, and could be one of the most valuable players on your fantasy team. We were high on DeBrincat last year, I think, and he popped off in the first half and then sort of fell asleep for the second half. But maybe one of these seasons he'll put it together and give us like a full, point per game season. I could see DeBrincat doing that, and hopefully those hits come back, because that's just more value for you. And then Patrick Kane as the third there, like you said, there's a lot of value there for a guy that's probably going to get 70 points with big power play numbers.
Absolutely. I have DeBrincat number 1, Patrick Kane number 2, and then I've added Marco Kasper. So going with the second line in full here. DeBrincat and Kane for the reasons we've already mentioned. Kasper just for the upside, right? Guy that I think you can actually draft in categories leagues for the hits and for decent shots as well. And then if he ever did get some power play time, then you could really start to see him pop off and realize a bit more upside. All right, we've reached the midway point. If you've made it this far, you should click the link in the description. Join the Discord community. You can sign up for Patreon, sign up for the free newsletter. All these links are in the description below. And you should definitely, if you are signing up for the Patreon for this year, you should definitely join the Apples and Ginos Patron League, the APL. That link is, it's everywhere. Everywhere you look, you'll find the link for the Apples and Ginos Patreon League. If you need to find it, you can DM me. If you go on Twitter, it is the pinned tweet on the Apples and Ginos account. If you go on Patreon, it's pinned there. Basically, you're going to find it if you're looking for it. We'll also put it in the description here. But join the Apples and Ginos Patron League. If you need more information about it, what that's going to look like this year, definitely come and ask us, and we'll be more than happy to fill you in. But basically, we're going to be putting a lot of leagues together, a tiered league system, and we're going to try to make it the most competitive and the most fun that we possibly can. Like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff really does help us out as we continue to try to drive this YouTube bus that we've been doing over the past year, trying to add some here. I'm not sure that YouTube loves the 2-hour plus videos for the algorithm, but we're putting them out there regardless. So if you can do any of that, it really does help us out. All right, Blake, you ready for some Edmonton talk?
I'm ready, buddy. Let's get to it.
All right, key departures: Corey Perry, Connor Brown, Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner. Basically all their middle six-ish guys are gone on the wings. And the key additions, obviously Jake Wallman, they add Trent Frederick, they add at the trade deadline last year. In the offseason here, Andrew Mangiapane joins them as a free agent, and Isaac Howard in a trade for Sam O'Reilly. They get a lot of people are pretty interested in Isaac Howard. We'll get to all of that. But on the whole, it kind of feels like people in, people out. Jake Wallman is kind of the biggest piece here in my mind, at least for fantasy purposes. Coaching status, Chris Knoblauch back again, has really proven himself in my mind as a top-end head coach. He was a little bit of an off-the-board pick when they hired him. I don't like he was being considered for some jobs around the league, but it was a first-time head coach, and putting him in a room with superstars like McDavid and Draisaitl, you always wonder how a first-time head coach in the league is going to deal with guys like that. And Knoblauch has shown himself to be more than capable of coaching in the playoffs, which I think is a bit more of a different animal. And I have a lot of respect for coaches who outcoach other coaches en route to the Stanley Cup final, and he's done that in back-to-back years. So a lot of respect for Chris Knoblauch, the coach. Big question for me with Chris Knoblauch is, will he continue to dial back McDavid's minutes in season, which is obviously when we care about it for fantasy purposes. You got any thoughts on that, Blake?
I think you kind of have to, right? Like at this point, they've been to the finals twice and lost. So nothing else matters. You get to the playoffs. We know what this team's capable of in the playoffs. Like you just said, you have to get over the hump. So they need to make sure that McDavid and Draisaitl are both good to go into the playoffs. You're going to see some load management for sure. Like I don't see how it's not going to happen. And probably throughout the year as well. So now all that needs to happen is Edmonton making it there.
Right. Let's kick it over to that power play. This is as locked in a power play as there is around the league, along with Detroit. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, Bouchard. Any thoughts here, Blake? Is there any chance that they bump any of these guys?
No, I don't see why. I mean, Hyman, no. Hyman will be there, but like, let's just as a hypothetical, what do you think they would do? I think Hyman could if they wanted to change things up, Hyman would be the guy that maybe they move down. I think they've shown that before. I remember talking about him as a buy low last year, and then there was a couple random games where they put Hyman on power play too, and you're like, oh my God, like why are they doing this? Like, who would go up to the top power play if someone came off? Who do you think?
I honestly would not even know where to start. Honestly, I think they would put Jake Wallman on the top
Bang!
power play.
I wasn't gonna. I bet I like Andrew Mangiapane potentially, or even Isaac Howard, and we'll talk about those players later. But this is locked in. I think we're gonna have a bounce back for a couple players on this power play.
All right, let's dig in on the projections here. McDavid, I have for 38 goals, 89 assists, 127 points. You have him for 41 goals, 89 assists, 130 points. What can we say that hasn't been said about Connor McDavid already? The real question is him versus McKinnon for first overall in fantasy drafts, and I think we talked about it with McKinnon already in the other episode, but at this point we are taking McKinnon. The shot volume, they're projecting similarly in terms of the points here, so I think we take just the kind of peripheral stats that McKinnon's bringing to the table at this point. But if you take McDavid 1 overall, like, I don't think you're going to be really displeased with your outcomes.
No, it's a nice spot to be. It feels like you're getting the number 1 pick at 2 as well, right? Because you either get McKinnon or McDavid. That's excellent. One of the things that's neat to me about McDavid, and I don't really have any kind of like reasoning for it, is like, why did he pop off for 64 goals that year? Like, what the hell happened? Like, this guy's obviously as elite as it gets in terms of play driving, offensive generation, right? He does that. But why did he pop off? And why doesn't he pop off more? Like, is it his line mates? Does he need kind of a change of pace, or are teams adjusting to his style of play? Like, he played most of last year with Zach Hyman and Nuge, and then he played with Draisaitl and Hyman as well. Like, all guys he's played with for such a long time. Like, why do you think there's that goal difference that he has from year to year?
Yeah, I think there's just 1 year. Actually, Sidney Crosby had a year like this as well, where he just shot way more and
off.
decided to be that guy, and he can because he's that caliber of player in the league. So I just don't think that's the way he necessarily wants to operate. But if he feels forced to, if he doesn't have the line mates at that time, if he thinks he's got to take the shots, then he can be that guy. So you actually kind of saw that in the Four Nations. Like, there was talk of, John Cooper telling McDavid and McKinnon especially to be more selfish with the puck, and McDavid scored more goals per game in that scenario, right? And that's best on best, like really elite tournament. He's capable of that. So I think it's just a spot where he's capable of that at any time, and that's obviously exciting for fantasy as well. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins probably going to be on McDavid's left wing for a good chunk of the year again this year. 21 goals, 41 assists, 62 points for me. 23 goals, 41 assists, 64 points for you, Blake. Didn't have a great year last year, and so I think we'll have people a little bit scared off of Nugent-Hopkins this year. Only 49 points in 78 games. But I do think that was a bit of an outlier. Like, the year before it was 67 points. The year before that it was 104 points. That's not coming back anytime soon. That was that ridiculous power play and all the craziness that went along with that. But I do think that Nugent-Hopkins, 60 points, feels pretty comfy.
Yeah, and there's big time value there. Like, again, in these drafts I'm doing, I'm getting Nuge way late. And in the best ball drafts that we're doing, check out the Apples and Ginos best ball drafts, folks. Links in the description and in the Discord. Get your biscuits in there. Nuge is a left wing only in that format, and left wing is really scarce in those best balls, and he's still available around like 100. Or even later, Nuge. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's a 60-point player with ceiling for more. Like, how many power play points did Nuge get last year? Like 20 power play points. This is a guy that got 53 in that big year. That's not real, but I mean, you can throw 5 more points on top of that. It was just a bad year overall for Nuge, and I think he's going to bounce back big time.
Another guy that we're banking on to bounce back is Zach Hyman. I have him for 33 goals, 33 assists, 66 points. You have him for 34 goals, 26 assists, and 60 points in total. This is our biggest discrepancy on Edmonton. I'm 5.1 points higher in total. So let's dig in for a second here. Let's start with the power play. I have him for 18 power play points and 19 total minutes average time on ice.
Yeah, I got him for 16 power play points in just under 19.
Okay, so we're pretty tight there. I think probably then, the goals are pretty close. I think we're in line there, so it's probably more on the efficiency side of things. So I'd even strength have him for 53% IPP. On the power play, I have him for 36%. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm actually higher on both. So I got him 54% IPP at even strength, 39% on the power play.
Okay, so then we got to be talking about shot generation. Even strength shots for per 60, 36.5. On the power play, 62.
Even strength, I've got 34 shots per 60. Power play, I've got 60.
Yeah, so lower there. That's probably most of it. Yeah, it's a spot where he's done this. Like,
Yep.
it's been a spot where he's done it. I don't think last year was totally real in that regard, and I do expect that to come back a bit. So, yeah, in this range though, again, we're not like that far
Yep.
off. I don't think it's too crazy to think that he could be somewhere in this range. And yeah, probably he's not getting back to that point per game, that we had in years past.
Yep.
But I do think in the mid 60s, I feel relatively comfortable with that. We saw in the playoffs where he just like went off hitting everything in sight before he had that injury and knocked him out for the rest of the playoffs. So
Right.
that's in the bag too. I'm only for 72 hits on the season, but 245 shots. Like, I think he's going to do some stuff for fantasy this year. I think he'll be valuable yet again.
Yeah, what do you think about his injury stuff? Do you think he'll be like I've read just a couple things that he might not be ready for the start. Like, not that he's going to miss a ton of time like Matthew Tkachuk or anything, who we'll talk about later, but he could miss training camp potentially, like with his what is it, his wrist or his forearm? I don't remember what it was that he injured there, but does that factor in at all to any of the projections you're doing?
I haven't really factored that in at all at this point. Yeah, it was a wrist. He broke his wrist, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, fractured wrist. So I haven't factored it in at all yet. If we get something more concrete, then I will. But at this point, with the projection that I've got here, I am projecting him to be healthy to start the season.
And wait, one more thing, Nate. I do want to shout this man out. Mark, 18 skaters. He's got an expected goals model here, and Zach Hyman is number one in Mark's expected goals model over the last 2 years. So this guy knows how to get scoring chances. Obviously, he's playing with two of the best players in the entire world. So no wonder he's getting the chances. He's getting the best chances in the world, probably. I don't understand why he was so inefficient last year. That should definitely bounce back. But just a fun fact, this guy, his expected goals is probably tops in the league.
All right, let's move on to Draisaitl. I have him for 51 goals, 64 assists, and 115 points. You have him for 51 goals, 61 assists, and 112 points. So a little bit of difference there, but pretty tight, especially when considering the amount of points we're expecting this man to put up. Had a really huge year, led the league in goals. Really nice year from Leon Draisaitl. We expect basically more of the same. The real question with Draisaitl is, where are you taking him?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I feel like he should be top five, really. But I've seen him go 6 or 7 in a couple of the drafts. And like, if he falls to that, that feels amazing. Like, he's not the most fleet of foot skater. Like, he's not one of these exciting guys like McDavid or McKinnon or even like a Pasternak or Matthews, right? He seems a little bit more muted to me, but he shouldn't be. Right? Obviously, like, this guy led the league in goals. His efficiency is off the charts. Like, this is one guy in the league that can maintain a 20% shooting percentage on the league. And it's not like he's Zach Hyman just dinking little shots in at the front. He's like sniping it. This guy he's one of the best snipers in the entire league, and he plays with the best facilitator in the entire league. So yeah, I expect another big season for him, but yeah, I feel comfortable with him in the top 5. If he falls out of the top 5, it starts to become pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, I do think he kind of fits into that tier after McKinnon, McDavid in the Kucherov, Draisaitl, Matthews, Kaprizov tier, I'll call it. I do have Pasternak slightly outside that tier this year. We talked
Makar
about
as well.
Boston. Yeah, Makar, sorry. I was talking about the forwards there, but Makar is definitely in that tier for drafts for me this year as well. So yeah, it's like a what is that, a 5-person tier after McKinnon, McDavid for me. I do think that he fits somewhere in there, and I'm not going to fight you if you take him all the way up at 3. I would take Kucherov at 3 probably most times, 9 times out of 10, just because you feel pretty confident about what he's going to do. But if you took Draisaitl there, I can see it. I'm not going to fight you too hard about it. Let's move on to one of his projected line mates, Andrew Mangiapane, joining the team fresh this year. I'm for 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points. I'm for 18 goals, 22 assists, and 40 points. Do you think that Mangiapane can make good on an opportunity on Draisaitl's wing this year?
It's better than what Draisaitl was dealing with last season. I mean, damn, it's anything is like it's crazy to me who they throw out with these two superstars and expect them to get the biz, and they still do, right? But they do individually, guys like Draisaitl and McDavid, whereas their flanks don't really do that, right? Like Draisaitl played with Arvidsson, Podkolzin last year. He did play with Hyman and McDavid as well, but then Kapanen as well, Kapanen,
Yeah.
sorry, like. What? I think Mangiapane is an upgrade on Arvidsson. Oh, maybe not Arvidsson, but Podkolzin and Kapanen 100%. Like he's in the Arvidsson range to me. It's a guy that can shoot. It's a guy we've been excited about before here at Apples and Ginos. Obviously, he's taken kind of a different route here, like kind of swirling the drain, honestly. Like really bad season last year in Washington on a team that was cooking, right? Like Washington was great. Mangiapane, not. Okay, yeah, 28 points in 81 games, buddy. That stinks, all right? But hard to do too much when you're only getting 13 minutes average time on ice, and that's what Mangiapane got last year. So I've got Mangiapane for just under 16 this year, and I bumped him up to almost 40 points, and I feel like, yeah, he's just going to be one of these Ty Ratty, Victor Arvidsson, Podkolzin type of players, but I do think he has a little bit more juice there just because of some of the underlying metrics that he's shown previously, but time will tell, right? This guy could very well get bounced down to the third line and still get that 13-minute treatment. Power play 2, maybe no power play, and then what the hell are we doing, right? So this is just a guy I think will be probably streaming in for Edmonton, and maybe, just maybe, he could be a streamer with benefits, or maybe a streamer that you end up holding for a little bit on your roster.
For myself, yeah, I can see it. I can see him actually being a decent fit. He's an efficient shooter, if not a volume shooter. I think he'll probably throw close to a hit per game as well in this role. So if he can gain a little momentum there, it just seems like no one is ever able to gain any momentum on this line. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's just bad players or, it's not a big role. It's definitely not a role where you get 16 plus minutes on the second line in Edmonton. It basically never has been. They have McDavid, they have Draisaitl, they have Nugent Hopkins, they have Hyman, and then everybody else just gets a little bit of ice time, basically. So, yeah, unless he's really able to force himself into a bigger role, I have him for just under 15 minutes, and that's kind of where I'm expecting him to live. But if he gets a little bit more, he can at least be a streamer. Vasily Podkolzin, we don't need to spend a lot of time here. I have him for 9 goals, 15 assists, 24 points. You have him for 11 goals, 17 assists, 28 points. 210 hits is the exciting part about Podkolzin, honestly, and the fact that he did actually play a fair bit with Draisaitl last year. I think we're getting past the point where we can expect Podkolzin to like break out to some level of fantasy relevance and have like a 20-goal season. I don't think that's really in the cards here, but if he ever did, it'd be pretty nice to go along with those 210 hits. But either way, not too excited about Podkolzin. He kind of fits in that Trent Frederick mold to me. That Frederick contract is kind of bonkers to me, especially considering where else that money could have gone this offseason. I did do a Trent Frederick projection. I don't blame you for not doing one, Blake, but I did get him for 12.5 goals, 9 assists, works out to 22 points. So again, 205 hits is really the attraction with Frederick. One of these guys probably gets some time with Draisaitl, and maybe he's streamable in Bangers Cats leagues at that point, but that's about it.
I thought there was a funny narrative in the playoffs about Podkolzin. I saw just on Twitter and wherever else. It's like, did the Canucks give up on Podkolzin too easily because he got like some goals in the playoffs? It's like the guy's getting 11 minutes a night. Like he's not doing anything. He's playing with Draisaitl. Like before he was playing with frickin' Pia Suter or whatever the hell, like, no, we didn't give up on him too early, but I do love those hits. He's a fun player. Like this guy's he's a wrecking ball out there. Make some space for Draisaitl, but yeah. And then Frederick, yeah, what a weird contract. Where else could they have spent that money? I don't know.
I don't know, but could be at a different position. We'll never know, though. Adam Henrique, another player I did a projection on. You couldn't be bothered, which is completely
I was done.
understandable.
I'm fine.
Adam Henrique, 14 goals, 12 assists, 26 points for me. Really big, nothing doing here. 84 blocks, I guess, is the most interesting point that I can say for his statistical profile. In my projection, But let's talk about a guy who might actually have some fantasy relevance this year if everything goes right. Isaac Howard. I have him for 14 goals, 22 assists, 36 points. You have him for 16 goals, 20 assists, 36 points. So we see that relatively similarly. Talk to me about Isaac Howard. Do you see a ceiling for this player in Edmonton in year one?
I think there's some hope, right? Like this is something a little bit different. It's not like Pod Colson or Kasperi Kapanen out there. It's like this is a guy with offensive acumen, right? That is, just coming off a pretty damn nice season. So like 52 points in 37 games for Michigan, pretty damn nice, my man. And he's a shooter, right? Like and Draisaitl, obviously an amazing shooter. McDavid, an amazing shooter and facilitator. Like big time high danger passes coming from McDavid and Draisaitl. So, who's to say that Isaac Howard can't be the guy that's finishing those high danger passes, right? So it's kind of a fun projection to me because I'm not super familiar with the player. I watched a bunch of highlights. This guy's got a great shot. Like his snapper is elite. Like it just flies off his stick. And that's, like you put that on a line with McDavid or Draisaitl, he's going to score some goals. So I think there's a decent floor with this player as long as he makes the team out of camp. And if he gets like, what did you project him for? I got him for, like 14 minutes, 25 seconds, something like that, which feels nice. But if I could see a situation where he gets more. It's just, this is a guy too, that defensively, he's going to be a problem, right? So is Chuck Knobloch going to want Chuck Knobloch? Chris Knobloch. Chuck Knobloch is a baseball player that I remember from a baseball game I used to play. Chris Knobloch. I've done that before too. Yeah. I don't know. He had a crazy like batting stance too, Chuck Knobloch. It was like all weird. He's like a little dwarf guy. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways, Isaac Howard, I think it's a nice shot. It's an upside pick at the end of your draft because I could see a world in where he plays top 6 minutes, or at least in the top 6 for the season, right? Playing with elite players, and he's got an elite shot himself. So he's going to have to figure out the NHL game here, but maybe some power play time too. I don't know. Maybe he has a cup of coffee on power play one here and there, and they see what we got with this kid. I don't know. It's kind of exciting. I would pick him as my last pick for a fun pick.
Yeah, I mean, at least we have a player in Edmonton outside of the top 4 forwards that you can tell yourself a story about, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
A nice change from what we've had in the past. So, that part's nice. Chuck Knobloch batted .333 and then .341 in his age 26 and 27 seasons.
Oh, damn. Yeah. Go Google Chuck Knobloch and his batting style. All right. It's very strange. He's kind of getting down. He's getting some hit movement, right? The drive with the hip. Just pop it there. You know what I'm talking about, right, Nate?
Sure. Yeah.
Hitting dingers. You ever do that? Just go out and go in the field, just hit some dingers with your buddies. You ever do that?
Brother, I hit a dinger in my softball league, my 3-pitch co-ed softball league the other week. I hit it out. It was,
damn, buddy.
Pretty incredible.
Well, what kind of celly did you get? Did you do like the Batista, like the bat flip?
Yeah, I should have just tomahawk bat flip.
Oh yeah, buddy. Exactly. Yeah, and then just do like flips onto the home plate there. Yeah, he does that. Nate is quite the showman out in the sports world, folks. I mean, what you're seeing here is a reserved NGN. All right, he does that. All right.
All right, let's continue on to the defense here. Actually, some pretty interesting stuff. The defenseman in Edmonton, Mattias Ekholm, I have for 9 goals, 31 assists, 40 points. You have him for 10 goals, 29 assists, 39 points. We see the player pretty closely here. I guess the real question is, in the event of an Evan Bouchard injury, is it Ekholm who gets the top power play, or is it Jake Wallman? For my money, it's probably Jake Wallman, but if Ekholm ever did get that top power play, it could be really exciting. Even without it, I've got Ekholm for 176 shots, get him for 113 blocks, which is not too shabby. Pretty good player overall, even, he's starting to age a little bit, but I like Mattias Ekholm still.
Pretty good. I think both these guys are a nice little insurance policy on Bouchard. I would lean Wallman as well, but whoever goes up, it's not just like, oh, you're on the top power play, you're going to eat, you're going to get a bunch of points. I think both these defensemen could actually do well there, not just be a warm body on that power play, but actually do stuff. Like Jake Wallman's, he's a really fun piece. Like he's done a lot with very little in his career with ice time. Obviously, when he was in San Jose, he was, getting to eat a little bit there with the minutes because they didn't have anybody. But it's a really nice supplementary piece here in Edmonton. I'm talking Jake Wallman right now. I think we were talking Ekholm here, but I like Jake Wallman on the power play there. But Ekholm, man, this guy shows out in the micro stats, like everything. Defensively, he's a beast, and offensively too. He's an amazing puck mover. It's just a guy that's never really been put in offensive positions, and probably for a reason, because he's so good defensively. And when you got a guy like that, and you also have a defenseman like Evan Bouchard, who is a total train wreck in the defensive zone, but elite in the offensive zone, you need a guy like Ekholm sort of evening things out there. And I think he's really found his role here on Edmonton. So but again, both players, if they get moved to power play 1, I think Wallman would really be a smash, but I think Ekholm could easily run that power play as well and really do some stuff there.
All right, let's talk about Wallman then. I have from 12 goals, 27 assists, 39 points. You have for 10 goals, 27 assists, 37 points. I am pretty into Wallman, actually. 192 shots, 189 blocks is what I've got him for. We like those stats for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The goals, double-digit goals, even without top power play. And then, probably an elite handcuff if we're really talking about who could be the guy to go to the top power play in the event of a top power play defenseman getting injured. I really do feel like Jake Wallman could be that answer this year. And just at this base level, like if you take the APL settings, the Apples and Ginos Patron League settings, Wallman comes out to be like a pretty solid third defenseman on your roster in a 12-team league. And that's just at this level, right? So if he gets power play 1, now all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who can push for, top 12 defenseman status for at least a short period of time if he's getting some top power play time. So Jake Wallman, I am pretty into this year as a guy with a really solid floor with those shots and blocks, and just playing in a much better offensive environment for a full season in Edmonton than he's ever had in his career before. I'm actually pretty into Jake Wallman.
Why are you telling the people this, Nate? All right. We have to draft against these people. Damn it. All right. Don't give away the secrets. But yeah, I love it too. I love players like this where their floor is solid without power play. And then any power play is just icing on the cake, right? And this guy shows out just due to the peripherals, right? Shots and blocks. Love that stuff. And the double-digit goals. It's really good stuff. And it's a great offensive environment at even strength. Jake Wallman, we salute you.
We absolutely salute you. Let's talk about Evan Bouchard here. A little bit of a pullback. He had 82 points in 81 games in 23-24. Last year, down to 67 points in 82 games. Has remained very healthy throughout his career. He's only missed 2 games out of his 4 full seasons. 14 goals, 60 assists, 74 points for me. 15 goals, 59 assists, 74 points for you. So obviously we're very tight on this projection here. I don't know what much there is to say about Evan Bouchard. I mean, 227 shots, 106 blocks, 32 power play points for me. Just across the board, Evan Bouchard is really solid. I think he is a second-round caliber defenseman for fantasy purposes in points leagues, and I'm pretty happy to draft him there.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Just this guy's a stud. And one thing I love about Bouchard as well is how he elevates his game in the playoffs. Like that's the type of guy you want to see. That gives me faith that in the regular season, the coach is going to give him a long leash, right? And he has to with a player like Bouchard because, again, like I mentioned, the defensive shortcomings, pretty terrible, right? This guy's all 3 zones. He's in the 10th percentile in entry chance prevention. All right. So, that show ain't no good, right? Like, you're driving into the Edmonton zone. You're like, I got Ekholm over here. I got Bouchard over here. You're taking Bouchard. All right. You can dangle this guy into the ground, but for fantasy, it doesn't matter at all. This guy's a stud, and I like him second round as well.
All right, last one, Darnell Nurse. I have for 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points. You have him for 7 goals, 26 assists, 33 points. I like Darnell Nurse a little bit here. Really, it's just the peripherals. 182 shots, 172 hits, 154 blocks. Yeah, that'll play, especially in your Bangers Cats leagues this year, Blake.
That'll damn play. All right, that'll do it. Shout out to Ryan, R33. All right, Darnell Nurse. He's picking him up in the 5th round. All right, and he's loving life. Okay, he does that. All right. Top Shatter Fantasy. Shout out to you, my man. I'm sorry, buddy. That's terrible. It was a good pick. But yeah, we're looking at amazing peripherals here at same kind of thing as Jake Wallman, in my opinion. And I think they've sort of figured out how to insulate Nurse a little bit, like some of his shortcomings, right? I mean, we saw 2 years ago in the playoffs when he was with, I don't remember who it was with, Cody Ceci. It was like, why would you put these two players out together? They're just getting caved in. Last year was a little bit better. And I think they kind of were playing to Nurse's strengths a little bit, and they were able to insulate him. So he's just a great player. I think he'll always get a lot of ire from fans because of his contract, but it doesn't mean that he's not valuable. And it certainly doesn't mean he's not valuable for fantasy. This guy's periffs are off the chain.
Right, Blake, top 3 targets. Give it to me.
Give it to me, Neil. Sorry, that's a Family Guy reference. I don't know if anyone gets that. If you get that Family Guy reference, hit me up in the comments, all right? Because, I'm very alone here. Nate just giving me the dead-eyed stare half the time. I don't know what's happening. Evan Bouchard is my number 1. I think that makes sense. Zach Hyman, number 2. I am a little bit concerned about the injury, and not that he's going to miss a ton of time, but if you miss, training camp, or you're not able to train the way that you normally train, that I take notice of that. So I'm mildly concerned about Zach Hyman. Like, obviously it was an efficiency issue last year with him, and now his wrist was broken. So is he going to get better or worse at shooting the puck? I don't know. Hopefully he's fully healthy and he's able to get a full training camp in and get the biz, because that's a very valuable player, and his ADP is stupid right now. And then Jake Wallman, as we talked about, nice piece. I think he's the elite handcuff for Evan Bouchard if he goes down.
My top 3 are the exact same: Evan Bouchard, Zach Hyman, Jake Wallman. I think actually the one that I'm the most excited about clicking draft on is Jake Wallman.
Nice.
But yeah.
Where you drafted him?
I haven't really been drafting him until I completed my projections and kind of looked up from, your nose is stuck in there so deep in the spreadsheets for so long, and then you look up and you're like, wow, I really like Jake Wallman this year, and you start to think about why it works and what the ceiling might be, and yeah, you start to get a little bit excited. So maybe I'd even put Jake Wallman at number 1 if I had to re-rank it.
Number 1. Oh my god.
I do like some Jake Wallman this year, that's for sure. All right, last one, Florida. Key departures: Spencer Knight, Nate Schmidt, backup goalie and third pair defenseman. Florida not really going off the deep end anytime soon. Key additions, obviously the 2 deadline pickups, Brad Marchand, Seth Jones coming back, and Daniil Tarasov is the replacement for Spencer Knight. To me, that just means Sergei Bobrovsky going to get a ton more starts yet again this year, and he's proven he's pretty up to it over the last number of years, even as he gets older. So that seems to be the case once again. Coaching status, Paul Maurice returns. Florida's good. The sky is blue. The grass is green. What else can we say? Newsflash, Florida's probably going to be pretty good yet again.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you, Nate.
All right, let's talk about this power play. Reinhart, Barkov, Kachuk are locks. Jones on the back end, I feel pretty confident about that. He pretty much went to the top power play and stayed there. Ekblad did join him at times in the power play, but Jones was pretty much a fixture there. The 5th spot on this power play is of interest. Ekblad, as I mentioned, it was basically just split between Ekblad and Verhaeghe throughout the playoffs as the 5th member of this power play. And so it is a question that we have to answer, I guess, at this point. What's your lean here, Blake, on Ekblad versus Verhaeghe?
I know what I want it to be, a Verhaeghe, please. But, anything that Paul Maurice does, you have to just be like, I guess he knows what he's doing. Damn, although, yeah, I think Florida, left some meat on the bone in terms of their power play, right? But they were still 12th overall. Just their efficiency at 5-on-5, not great, but power play was fine. So whatever they're doing works, but I think I would hope that Verhaeghe gets out there. But Ekblad is a really good piece as well. I've seen a couple, even just highlights where he sort of sneaks in off the blue line there. They're doing their overload on the strong side, and he does a weak side cut and just taps one in. And he's good for that. But he's not him. I do think that, and I'm excited to get into Jones with you, because I don't think there's much of a conversation that he's going to be the number 1 quarterback there. I think that it's pretty much a lock. I think that's Jones' spot. And yeah, to your point, it's Ekblad or Verhaeghe. It's not Ekblad or Jones.
Yeah, I think that a pretty key piece to all of this actually is that Nate Schmidt is gone, and Nate Schmidt was the power play 2 quarterback, and now he's gone, and
It's a
the
good piece.
replacement that we see on the roster right now is Jeff Petrie. I don't think Jeff Petrie is running power play 2. To me, that means that most likely you get Seth Jones power play 1, you get Aaron Ekblad power play 2, and they leave it that way. The only other option I can really see is that they give Gustav Forsling power play 2. That's not really been something they've ever really wanted to try
They
at any
should.
point. Yeah, it would be
He's a
pretty
good
great.
shooter. Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably work because Forsling is just hashtag good at hockey, but I don't think it's something that Maurice is really entertaining in his mind at any point. So, yeah, I think that's just one more point in the one more feather in the cap for Verhaeghe over Ekblad on power play 1. The other question here is, there's some rumors flying out there. It's Nick Kyprios just talking on his podcast that I guess people listen to, and making wild claims about potentially Kachuk not resurfacing in the NHL until the new year. And I mean, I have no idea how to parse any of this information.
Mhm.
That's literally the only a person in hockey that is talking about this, which makes me think even less that it's a real thing. Um, I just feel like we would have got a Friedman tweet if there was something substantive here, but at the end we don't really know. So if Kachuk is out, then what happens to this power play? Do you think that, because of what I've laid out, if Ekblad is on power play 2, do you think there's another player who could get elevated to the top power play unit, Blake?
I think it'd be Sam Bennett. I think Sam Bennett would make his way, or Mackie Samoskevich, right? Because Samoskevich had some success on the power play last year instead of Verhaeghe, much to my chagrin, because I had Verhaeghe in a lot of spots and he was getting power play 2, poo-poo. So yeah, I think it would probably be Sam Bennett heading up there. But I actually do think that Kachuk is going to miss time, and not just based on what Kyprios said, but I've read a couple other articles. Like he had surgery, and also like what's the cap situation there in Florida, right? Like they're over the cap, so you got a $9.5 million contract in Kachuk. Like I think there's going to be some shenanigans here, right? Like he got the surgery, right, to fix what I don't remember what his injury was, but yeah, he got surgery for whatever injury he was dealing with, and like I think they're going to have to put him on LTIR. Like, how are they going to get under the cap? Right. That's sort of my thought there. So I think there's a little bit of where there's smoke, there's fire. I do think Kachuk's going to, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses up until the new year. They want Kachuk to be good to go for the playoffs. He did that last year. Like they let him heal up or whatever. Like this guy is the ultimate gamer in the playoffs. So and the team is more than good enough to deal with Kachuk being out of the lineup. So why rush him back?
All right, so let's talk about Kachuk then. I projected him for 65 games. You projected him for 45 games. Again, we're dealing with not a lot of information at this point. If and when we get better information, we will update. I prorated out his numbers for 82 games just for the purposes of comparing our projections side by side here.
Nice.
For me, it comes out to 32 goals, 62 assists, 94 points. And for you, 30 goals, 56 assists, 86 points. So it's actually a pretty solid difference in the end there. 7.6 points in total. For me, I think actually this is about as good a situation for Matthew Tkachuk as we've ever seen. Like his line mates are all there from last year. The power play should be terrific once again with him being a featured component. Typically, he's one of the major facilitators on that power play. That power play does run through him and Barkov a fair bit. So I think he'd get a good chunk of that again. I think Seth Jones actually potentially makes that power play better than it's been in years past.
Okay.
And I think that, it's just a player that I would love to be in on. 100 plus hit pace, 200 plus shot pace. All of it really does work out for Matthew Tkachuk under the hood for me. Yeah, and also just the fact that, Brad Marchand now is on the third line. So if they ever decide to, instead of Evan Rodriguez on your line, Matthew Tkachuk, here's Brad Marchand. That's actually better. So
yeah, it's awesome, man. I love Matt Tkachuk, and this projection doesn't indicate like what I think of Matt Tkachuk as a player. I feel like this is a unique situation where I do believe he's going to be injured starting the year. Like I just looked up his injury, which I didn't remember, but he tore his adductor muscle off the bone. And he played through that and had to have surgery. So that's going to make it difficult for him to train in the way that he needs to train. So I feel like when he does come back, it's not going to be the same Tkachuk that we know. It's going to be like whatever we need to do to get Matthew Tkachuk to the level that he needs to be for the playoffs, right? So I could see some load management. I could see them featuring other players and letting Tkachuk rest, right? Or not trotting him out there for a maximum amount of minutes, right? Unless they're in like a playoff hunt randomly, like they're, they have a terrible season and they're trying to make the playoffs, then sure, Matt Tkachuk would get the full complement of minutes. But to me, it's just this season. And I have him for 80. What do I have him for? 86, like point per game pace. Yeah, 86. He got 9. He was in a 90-point pace last year. So I'm only lopping like 5 points off the top, and I'm kind of baking in that potential injury. I think that's where I'm at, but this guy's elite. I want to see like what an absolute gamer. He's done this 2 years in a row, like plays till the wheels fall off, right? And then, takes a long time to heal up and then comes back and does it again. Like this guy's incredible, but I think it's going to take its toll on him, and it's going to take its toll on his fantasy value for us.
Right, let's talk about some of the guys that are not super exciting first here. Let's get them out of the way. Evan Rodriguez, we see very similarly. I have him for 13 goals, 21 assists, 34 points. You have him for 15 goals, 19 assists, 34 points as well. Eetu Luostarinen, nice story, really good defensive player, but definitely not a guy for fantasy. 10 goals, 15 or 16 assists, 26 points for me. 10 goals, 19 assists, 29 points for you. Is there a scenario in which you're picking up Rodriguez at any point this year, Blake?
I'm sure, as a streamer, for sure. I picked him up a lot of times last year as well. He's playing top 6, right? For the most part. And we've seen he can have some success, but he's a chucker. He's an absolute chucker. This guy has no efficiency whatsoever. It's crazy to me. Like, yeah, and he had an efficient season last year, shooting 9.3%. All right. Thank you, Evan, for coming out. But who cares? I mean, he does it when it matters in the playoffs. So Eetu Luostarinen is an interesting piece. Like, 25 points in the regular season, that's fine. But I mean, when paired up with Anton Lundell and Brad Marchand, this guy popped for 19 points in 23 playoff games. Like that, I'm not saying he's going to do that, but he can do that, right? And, the efficiency wasn't crazy, right? He shot 14% in the playoffs. He played just over 15 minutes, no power play points. I mean, I don't know. Should we be a little bit more into Luostarinen? I wanted to project him higher, and it just didn't make any sense. But what do you think? Like this third line was really special. And I'm talking about Lundell, Marchand, and Luostarinen. Like, do you think there's a world in where they kind of outpoint what we're projecting them here?
For the other two members, yes. For Luostarinen, no. I think it's like a Brian Bickle kind of playoff run,
nice.
Fernando Pisani kind of playoff run.
Love those.
Yeah, that's how I view what happened there. He was in a terrific spot. Marchand, like you look at everything, Marchand really drove everything there. And,
he was great.
Yeah, basically other players were in his orbit. And so, that's kind of how I view the dynamic there. Let's talk about Marchand. 23 goals, 31 assists, 54 points for me. 27 goals, 30 assists, 57 points for you. Realistically, this is probably about as good as it gets for Marchand, at least in this role that we see him continuing this third line. Why would they change anything? We just saw how effective it was. So really the only chance for this to get better is, maybe injuries higher up the lineup that push him up into a power play or a top line role. But realistically, it's just hard to draft Marchand where we've been drafting him in years past, even though he's on a much better team now.
Yeah, I mean, again, if Matthew Tkachuk is out, do they put Brad Marchand up there on the second line? Like Marchand, Bennett, and Erod? Like that's not terrible, right? I mean, I feel like they would want to keep the line together that he played there, that third line. So I think it'd probably be Samoskevich that goes up and plays with Bennett and Rodriguez there. But I mean, yeah, if Brad Marchand moves up the lineup, we're looking at more points. He played great last year, and he was so motivated. And I hate that I like Brad Marchand. What the hell? I mean, damn. But he's a really likable guy, and I just think that he landed on his feet here in Florida, and I'm glad he was able to re-sign. And I think they're going to be cup contenders again. It's insane. But yeah, so what do you have? 54, 57? It's a nice piece. I think it's a very, that's a floor projection. I think, again, there's lots of ways that he could, tack a couple more points on there.
For sure. Anton Lundell, 3C there in Florida, 18 goals, 28 assists, 46 points for me, 17 goals, 26 assists, 43 points for you. I think Lundell is a really talented player, a player that would be the second line center on a lot of teams and potentially the first line center on a couple. I as much as I like the player, I just don't see a scenario really where he's completely popping off for fantasy purposes. The one scenario is more Barkov injuries,
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say.
That's where he got it done last year. He had that stretch where Barkov was out and he was almost pointing every game in that extended role. So that's really the only scenario. If that happens, if Barkov goes down, yeah, maybe just go instantly grab Lundell because he probably is the 1-for-1 swap with Barkov on the top line, top power play immediately. They did that last year and it really worked. So maybe you want to think about that. You could also see somebody like Marchand get the look on the power play over him this year, though, because of the added depth. So not banking on it, but definitely Lundell kind of be one of the cases on a team as deep as this where he's just never going to get the minutes that he would need to probably fulfill all the potential he has.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning about Lundell as well. The microstats don't look very good. Like this is a guy that on the eye test looks pretty good, but the underlying stats to me they don't show out. I mean, he doesn't generate any individual chances himself. Like he doesn't do that, and he's not setting up a lot of chances either, right? Like this is a guy that's more known for his defensive play, right? And obviously, like you can plug him in as the Barkov stash there, and he was able to do some stuff, but it wasn't because of him. It was because of the other players that he was playing with. So just something to know about Lundell. Like it's not a guy that is automatic if he gets moved up the lineup because he's not bringing a lot to the table underneath the hood.
Right. Let's conclude the second line then. Sam Bennett is the center there. 25 goals, 25 assists, 50 points for me, 26 goals, 30 assists, and 56 points for you. So this is the player you're the most high on relative to me, 6.5 points higher on Bennett. Talk to me about Sam Bennett and why you love a guy who just runs around concussing people.
Well, you know what? They should have been lipping off like that. All right. What was he doing? He does that like a little fly by the net. You idiot. Like just win normally. Can't you just win normally? Like you want to win by like, crushing the other team and like, giving a guy like a concussion. What are you doing? But that said, Bennett, I love what he brings to the table, right? He fits this mold of what a Florida Panther is to a T, right? Dump it in, go get the puck, nasty, cause chaos, right? He does that, but he's also an amazing rush player. Like he's incredible off the rush. He gets a lot of chances because he's in tight, right? Getting a lot of chances. He's great in zone. There isn't a lot of weaknesses to his game other than efficiency. Right? He doesn't do that. He's a chucker. But obviously we saw what happened in the playoffs. He shot 21% and won the Conn Smythe. Okay, so I mean, perfect timing for his efficiency to, come home to roost. That's nice. I don't expect it next year. I didn't project it that way, but I mean, on the year, he paced for 55 points last year. I feel like I've got him for 56. I feel like he's going to be feeling his plums a little bit after, an amazing offseason, right? Like I think there's a mental element as well, like just to see the puck go in the net at the most important time of the year and to see how much that fan base sort of embraced him, right? And this is all not analytical stuff, but I think there's a nice story around Sam Bennett. He re-signed, he won the Conn Smythe. I feel like he's going to come out firing. And obviously if Matt Tkachuk is injured, that could go two ways, right? That could affect him. Obviously, like he buries a lot of high danger passes. Well, who's giving him those passes? It's Matt Tkachuk, right? So who's going to give him those passes, right? We're going to have to sort of figure that out. Does Brad Marchand go up there and do that? I think that's possible, right? But I just like the player. I like what he's bringing to the table, and I think he's going to be coming into the season confident and looking to kind of fill the void of Matthew Tkachuk, and I feel like this is a guy that can do that.
Yeah, I have him for 242 shots, 174 hits, 99 PIMs. So bangers categories with those
Yes,
categories.
please. Yeah.
You're going to like Sam Bennett. Finally getting to the top line here. let's start with Barkov, captain of the team. I have for 26 goals, 63 assists, 89 points rather. You have him for 28 goals, 57 assists, 85 points. So I'm a little higher on Barkov. I typically am pretty high on Barkov. One of these years it's gonna hit. I don't know why that keeps happening for me, but 198 shots, 106 hits, underrated part of Barkov's game. He does actually throw the body a fair bit, 64
Yeah.
blocks. He actually is a really nice bangers categories player. A little bit under the radar there because of, the Lady Bing characterizations that he gets. I like Barkov a lot. He's kind of consistently there in the third round, and you're just banking a guy who's a point per game player at least, and it feels good every time, especially if you've gone wingers or defense with your first couple picks. Get that first center off the board in the third. Everybody's fading a little bit because there are so many centers, and he just falls into your lap in the third. You're loving life.
He does that. He's a third round guy at the end of the third sometimes. I've got him in the fourth in a couple of these best balls. And like I can't pass him up, even though I already have a center. I'm like, Barkov's there. There's no one else in the stratosphere that matches the type of value that Barkov has. So I have to take him, right? But I only have him for 85. I think when you've got a team like Florida that has played so much hockey over the last 2 years. Like we saw this with Tampa when they kind of went through their little dynasty there. It's like these guys get tired, right? We saw it with Victor Hedman, right? Guys like, I'm tired. Sergachev, you take the power play. You know what I mean? I feel like at some point, these guys are going to fall off a little bit and they're going to have to lean on guys like, Sam Bennett or this third line, Anton Lundell or Mackie Samoskevich, or like these guys are going to have to play a little bit more. But I think that's the only reason I regress Barkov a little bit. Like I think this guy's a perennial 90-point guy, amazing power play performer, probably the MVP of the team, honestly, like with what he does out there. So yeah, you're picking him up in the third round, fourth round. It's an automatic. It's a smash.
Yeah, I was a little bit more concerned about that, but Barkov in particular, actually, his minutes went up last year after their Stanley Cup win the year before. So that question at least was quelled a little bit for me. I do actually still have him regressing down again to 19 minutes 45 seconds total average time on ice. So I do have that a little bit baked in on my side, just obviously more efficient than you do. Carter Verhaeghe, 32 goals, 32 assists, 64 points for me. 33 goals, 35 assists, 68 points for you, Blake. This is a player who I think has a ton of potential. I've continually characterized as the unluckiest player in the league last year. 85 hits I have him for, almost 250 shots. Good player all around for all the things we like in fantasy. What do you think the ceiling case is for Verhaeghe last year, and do you think that he could hurt us the way he hurt us last year?
I think he could. He could hurt us again. You know what I mean? Like Florida can do whatever the hell they want at this point.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything that makes sense, right? Because they're the champs. They're the double champs. So when the double champs do whatever the F they want, they do that. It doesn't matter. So that said, I would love it. Like this guy really would shine with more opportunity, right? And the main thing is the power play. I think like his career high is 21 power play points. That was in 23-24. He had a 60% power play share. That's fine. That'll do. Give me a 60% power play share, Carter Verhaeghe, and we're getting back up to 70 points. That is where this guy should live. Like you said, one of the most unlucky players last year. In 23-24, his shooting percentage was 13.8. Last year, 8.3. Okay. That's really bad. And, the metrics, the underlying metrics held strong all year last year. It was just the deployment and the luck, really. He wasn't putting the biscuit in the basket. So, yeah, I think he definitely could hurt us again next year because I'm not sure that he gets power play one, right? Like it's really up in the air. I've got him for like 240 on the power play, basically. Like I'm baking in that he's probably going to get bounced down. He's not one of the locks on this power play. And it might even be less than that. Like that might even be a hopeful projection, but that said, like he's going to do a hell of a lot better at even strength. This is a guy that has really shown out at even strength, especially like 3 years ago at 22-23, he got 42 goals. He barely ever played the power play. Like most of those were at even strength. So he's playing on a great line. He wasn't converting. I think he will this year. And this guy is being left for dead in terms of the ADP that I've seen already. So I'm high on Verhaeghe. I think I'm going to have a lot of him on my teams too.
All right, last up, Sam Reinhart from this forward group. 37 goals, 46 assists. and 83 points for me, 37 goals, 46 assists, 83 points for you, Blake. Look at that. Obviously, this is a guy, he's going to be efficient. He's going to get a lot of minutes. He's going to hit as well. 94 hits is what my projection, 219 shots. Basically, Sam Reinhart, one of the more bankable guys in the second round this year for me.
The Sex Panther. 60% of the time, it works every time. But I think that rate should be higher. All right. This guy's good to go. Take him to the bank. He's an amazing finisher. We knew the shooting percentage was going to come down, right? He got 57 goals in 23-24, shooting 25% basically. No, but he followed that up with an 18% shooting percentage here. And I feel like that's absolutely reasonable. I've got him for 16% this year, so taking a little bit of a regression there. Still 37 goals, really nice stuff. He's just a great player. I think he's easily one of the most consistent players here. And funny you mentioned about the hits, like something about Florida last year, they were hitting everything. Like, did you notice when you're projecting that all their hits were like quite like another tier up? Right. They're all hitting a hell of a lot more, including Sam Reinhart. He had 103 hits last year where he had only 78 the year before. So I don't know what's got into these boys. I'm not sure if that's real. I think I regressed it a little bit, pretty much on every player that it looked like this. But I mean, that's just Florida Panther hockey, right? And that's what they do, and it works. And I mean, I don't know what can you say? Like Sam Reinhart, where I see him going in the second round, and that makes a lot of sense, right? He's very consistent. But I mean, we're looking at a point per game player here. Do you think second round kind of takes the value away that we could potentially be getting from Sam Reinhart? And are you worried at all that efficiency might drop even more where, now he's not even in the second round conversation?
I'm not really worried about that. Maybe if Kachuk is out and we get like a training camp injury for Barkov and also Seth Jones is out or something, like there would have to be like compounding factors. This team is so deep. Sam Reinhart
crazy.
is not going to lack for players to play with. If anything, he's going to get more minutes with Kachuk out. Like, I think the floor here is super solid with Sam Reinhart. Obviously, the chemistry with Barkov is huge, but it's also a guy like I have him for 66 blocks this year. Like, he fills all the categories. And I think that he's just super bankable in the second. Do I think he has like another 50 plus goal season in him? Probably not. That was probably a one-off, but we've seen that in the bag as well, right? So I really like Sam Reinhart in the second round. I think he fits right in there with the conversation with guys like Willie Nylander and other guys, but Sam Reinhart actually offers more peripherally than a guy like Nylander. So that's where I'm at on him. Let's talk about defenseman Gus Forsling. 12 goals, 23 assists, 35 points for me. 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points for you. Double-digit goals, close to 200 shots from the back end, over a hit in a block per game. You can do worse. You can do worse than
We're 2 hours in,
Forsling
folks,
as your fourth defenseman.
Yeah, I mean, I remember 3 years ago when Montour was there. It was Montour, Ekblad, and Forsling, and all of them had like over 3 shots per game. Like they were popping off. It was like offense from the defense, and it was really good. I was excited about Forsling. I thought he might get a chance at power play 1, and then that didn't really happen. But it's a great player. He's one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, and he's got double-digit goals locked and loaded. I mean, what's not to like? I think you could do a lot worse than Gus Forsling as your 4th or 5th defenseman. Like it's a really solid piece that you know what you're getting, I think. And, the periffs are not amazing, but you're going to get those blocks and close to, a hit per game with maybe more.
Aaron Ekblad, I have for 9 goals, 32 assists, 41 points. You have him for 10 goals, 31 assists, 41 points. See that pretty similarly. 180 shots, 132 hits, 96 blocks for me. Also 83 PIMs if you got that counted in your league. So Ekblad does all that. He's super inefficient. He gets big minutes, but he's super inefficient with it. So I don't see a ceiling here. Even if he's on power play 1 all year long, like, yay, he might get to 50 points. That's like ceiling case for me. He had that 1 year. No single player's year has done more for their fantasy draft position year over year than Aaron Ekblad's 2021-22 season, where he scores 57 points in 61 games. Massive outlier. Just go back and look at every other season he's ever had. It's just a monstrous outlier for Aaron Ekblad. So anyway, I don't think he's that dude, but he will be around. He will score, decent points in any format, just given the amount of ice time that he's there and the amount of counting stats that he'll just pile up.
Yep. And if Seth Jones gets injured, Ekblad's going to power play 1, right? Unless they run a 5-forward set, which is possible. But I do think that the Ekblad style of play is kind of going away in terms of an offensive defenseman, like just a shoot first kind of Dougie Hamilton. He's like a way lesser version of Dougie Hamilton. You know what I mean? And I just think that's going away. It's more puck possession. It's not like on the stick, off the stick, the way that Ekblad is, like firing the biscuit, right? So yeah, I think that's why that makes me feel better about Seth Jones on power play 1.
All right, Seth Jones, apparently I cut him off when putting the graphic together for YouTube, but Seth Jones I have for 11 goals, 41 assists, 52 points. You have him for 11 goals, 40 assists, 51 points. Pretty tight on Seth Jones here. Pretty interesting player, especially with 193 shots, 117 hits, 124 blocks from me. So pretty good category coverage with Seth Jones. And this is with 20 power play points. There's potential for more than that. There's potential that, a first season in Florida. Think about the teams that Seth Jones has played on throughout his career and think about the offensive firepower here.
Yep.
There's ceiling scenarios galore for me with Seth Jones. The power play he could get a bigger share of that power play. I have him at a 50% IPP. He could get more at even strength. I have him for 38% IPP. I just see a lot of scenarios in which this gets even better off this 52-point base projection.
Yeah. Digging in on the micro stats for Seth Jones, like they look great. And this is with Chicago. Like most of this data set that Corey Schneider has is from his Chicago days. So it looks great, except for the defensive stats, right? Like those look terrible, but you're playing on Chicago, right? So now he's on Florida. This is the best team in the league. They're easily the best team in the league. So I think we're going to see the best version of Seth Jones next year. And I want to be in on that because I also think you can get him at value, right? Like this is like definitely a second tier. Like he's like middle of the second tier in a lot of people's valuations, I think, but I don't think he should be. This is a guy that you want to target. And I think you'd be happy if you get him on draft day.
Yeah, I tweeted out Seth Jones top 10 fantasy defenseman. I was maybe being a little bit tongue in cheek with that, but I have him, in the APL settings, he comes in at 13. So it's not like the base projection is that far outside of that. And it would not shock me to see him sneak into the top 10. I have a lot of love for Seth Jones this year for sure.
I thought we got hacked. I sent Nate a message like, did you do that? Because I'm not sure. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I hadn't projected Seth Jones yet. So I'm like, all right, well, that's something. And then, yeah, I project him like, okay, sure. Yeah, I got you. It's not that crazy.
All right. Give me your top 3, Blake.
Top 3, I got to go back to the well. Carter Verhaeghe, Swaggy P. All right, we need this man in our life. I like him there because of the value, right? On draft day, I think that he has the best chance to bounce back of a lot of these Florida Panthers here. Him and Zach Hyman last year, ridiculous, right? Like amazing scoring chances for not a lot of goals. So I really do think Carter Verhaeghe is going to figure it out next year. It was sort of an outlier last year. So I'm picking him up there. I like that. Seth Jones, number 2. We just talked about him. Great stuff. And then Sam Bennett, I think I've got him as my number 3 because I do think he's going to get elevated up the lineup with Tkachuk out. He's going to be relied on more. And the underlying stats, I love what I'm seeing there. This is a dynamic player. He's just massively inefficient, except in last year's playoffs. Maybe that carries forward, Nate. What do you think?
I mean, it's possible, I guess.
All right.
I don't think you can bank on it.
Oh, damn. Point. Okay. All right.
But for my top 3, I do agree. Carter Verhaeghe, Seth Jones, my number 1 and number 2, and I will throw Barkov in as my number 3. I just think the value is so good there in the 3rd round every year. I love me some Alexander Barkov.
Yep.
Well, Blake, we did it. We did another one. 3rd episode of the 8-point projection series is in the books. That is going to be all that we've got for this episode, so hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, terrific free resource. All the microstats you heard today came from All 3 Zones, terrific paid resource. Many thanks to the band there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.